We commenced our meeting at 6 p.m. and at 6:02 we went into closed session, and the items that we handled are so indicated on the agenda. And I will make a report out in just a moment on that. And so welcome everyone. So in closed session, we have several action items, and I'll begin with them. The first item, the board took action to appoint Vidi Kantawala counselor effective September 15th, 2021. The motion by Mrs. Buck, the second by Mrs. Blades. It passed on a 5-0 vote. The second item, the board took action to appoint Roxana Mancia, counselor, effective September 15th, 2021. Motion by Mrs. Blades, second by Mrs. Anderson. It passed on a 5-0 vote. The third item, the board took action to appoint James Waits, counselor, effective September 15th, 2021. The motion was by Mr. Youngblood, second by Mrs. Buck. It passed on a 5-0 vote. The fourth action, the board took action to appoint Francisca Abrera, wellness specialist, effective September 15th, 2021. Motion by Mrs. Anderson, second by Mrs. Blades. It passed unanimously on a 5-0 vote. The fifth item, the board took action to appoint Jasmine Aceres, wellness specialist, effective September 15th, 2021. Motion by Mrs. Buck, second by Mr. Youngblood, and it passed unanimously on a 5-0 vote. The next item, the board took action to appoint Michelle Meyerson, wellness specialist, effective September 15th, 2021. The motion was by Mrs. Blades, the second by Mrs. Anderson. It passed unanimously 5-0. The seventh item, the board took action to appoint Brianna Tate, wellness specialist, effective September 15th, 2021. And the motion was by Mr. Youngblood, seconded by Mrs. Buck. It passed unanimously 5-0. And the last action, the board took action to appoint Ashley Krause, program specialist, effective September 15th, 2021. The motion was by Mrs. Anderson and the second was by Mrs. Blades. It passed on a 5-0 vote. So we have many new, highly qualified individuals that are joining us. So we're excited about the actions that we've taken in our closed session. Okay, at this time, I'm going to turn to my left and ask that our board vice president lead us in the pledge.
Everybody please stand and join me.
Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Buck. The roll call will indicate that all board members are present, including our student board member. And with that, the next item is approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the September 14th. Is it September 14th?
Mm-hmm.
September 14th, 2021 Board of Education agenda as recommended by the superintendent.
I second.
Thank you very much. That's the approval of the September 14th agenda, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And the second was by Mr. Youngblood. Thank you. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is passed unanimously, including our student board member. Okay, at this point, I want to make an announcement about the upcoming public comment. I'm delighted we have somebody in the audience tonight. It's indicative of the fact that I have over 30 requests to speak. And letting you know that we do set aside 30 minutes for the purpose of having public comment. There are forms, the blue ones that are in the foyer. Please get that turned in if you would. The forms are available and I do need to have those completed by the time I get to the item that is public comment. So I wouldn't want to have one arrive later because then I won't be accepting it to have you come forward. So do get those in if you haven't already. Also, because we normally allow up to 5 minutes because of the number of requests to speak, we will be reducing that to 1 minute per speaker to come forward. And with that, keep in mind as you're thinking about your remarks to tailor them, especially if you hear somebody else has delivered the same point, perhaps you can go to another point or just emphasize the same, but just be in mind, keeping in mind that we are going to be truncating the length of time. Also, if you need any translation
Recording in
services or
progress.
other accommodations, we will be happy to accommodate anyone with that request. The more notification we have ahead of time, preferably a day or two before, that really helps us make sure that we can have someone here or the equipment here, whatever is needed. And last but not least, we want to hear all the opinions. There will be diverse opinions, but please be respectful of anyone that's at the podium. We do have a civility policy. We do expect that everyone to listen with politeness and not interrupt with any comment or other activity that would be distracting. So keep that in mind as you come forward. All right. We do have a public hearing this evening, and that is on a particular item in the agenda, item 32. I'm going to have a comment after I open them. After you go. Okay, fine. With that, I am going to declare the public hearing open, and this is in regards to, it's relative to certification of assurance for fiscal year 2021-22 regarding the availability of student textbooks and instructional materials. It is now open for this public hearing as of 7:07 p.m. And with that, I will turn it over to our Assistant Superintendent of Education Services.
Thank you so much. Well, good evening, President Freeman, members of the board, Superintendent Alsassa, Executive Cabinet, and community members. Annual board action is required in order to receive funding for the pupil textbook and instructional materials incentive program under Educational Code Section 60252. This action entails a public hearing to make the determination that each pupil of the district has available textbooks and instructional materials. The public hearing is also intended to ensure that all district textbooks adopted in each subject area are consistent with the state content standards and curriculum frameworks adopted by the State Board of Education. We are pleased to report that the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District has adopted textbooks in all subject areas that are consistent with the state contents per Educational Code 60605 and that are established textbook adoption cycle. Additionally, each pupil has the appropriate textbooks and instructional materials as required by law. We are pleased, therefore, to report that in accordance with the pupil textbook and instructional materials incentive program, the Placentia Yorba Linda is in compliance with the legal requirements for the 21-22 school year. Tonight's public hearing serves to provide the public with an opportunity to provide input on this topic, and it's my pleasure to now return control back to you for that purpose, President Freeman.
Thank you. So at this time, is there anyone, you did not have to fill out a card for this purpose of this hearing? Is there anyone coming forth who wishes to speak to this item that is later in our agenda? Anyone wish to approach the mic? Please go ahead and go to the microphone. No, this is pertaining only to what she just explained. It is item 32 in the agenda. It's about availability of textbooks and conforming with the state standards. Solely that. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, all right. Then I'm going to declare that the public hearing has concluded at 7:09 p.m. All right, moving ahead to the minutes. We have two sets. I will take a motion for the first item in that section.
I'll make a motion to recommend that the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education, approve the minutes of the regular meeting of August 10th, 2021.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Youngblood and a second by Mrs. Anderson. Are there any additions, corrections, or other for the minutes that you have before you? Okay. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and take our vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And I'm going to abstain because I was not here at that meeting.
Okay. So the record will show that there were 4 ayes and 1 abstention from Mrs. Buck, who was not present at that meeting. And also that's it. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 2, I will take a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the Board of Education, the minutes for the special meeting on August 30th, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Mrs. Anderson and a second from Mrs. Buck. Again, any additions, corrections, or other?
I'll need to abstain. I was not at that meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you. Other than that, okay, we'll take our vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And then I will indicate that there were 4 that voted aye and then 1 abstention for Mr. Youngblood. Okay, good. Thank you very much. So we're here. We're at public comment. Do I have all forms? Okay, we have 33 speakers at this time. And that will conclude it. Again, without me having it here right now, no other cards are going to be accepted. So I just want to be sure that that was clear so someone isn't caught off guard. Okay, what I'd like to do, which I've done in the past when we have numerous speakers, is I'm going to call 3 names. Those are the names in which those 3 in that order will be coming forward. So just listen for the names as you hear them and be prepared to come forward to be the next speaker. All right. The first speaker to come forth is Ed Gunn. The second will be Sue Ballas, and the third will be Carmen Abbott.
Hello, good evening. Name's Ed Gunn. I've got a little note that I want to read to you guys. It's entitled Union Poison Travels in a Circle. Children go to school where the union reigns. Those children get polluted with things like socialism, Marxism. Everything is free and there's no responsibility. Those children grow up and they hear political ads with the same lies told to them at school, paid for by the teachers' union. Those adults vote for brain-dead Marxist morons like Newsom, Biden, and Harris, who answer to the teachers' union. Those political Marxist morons then pass laws to teach our children more crap, like 1619 Project, CRT, ethnic studies, 31 genders, etc. You do not need to wonder why America is in big, big trouble. Teachers good, union bad. Teachers, I urge you, quit the union. They're destroying America.
Board, are you a victim or are you a suppressor? CRT is a woke political indoctrination that does not belong in our K-12 education because our students aren't mature enough to handle the subject. So I ask you, in CRT, you are either a victim or you are a suppressor. What does that look like out on a playground? Well, let me tell you, it's cowboys and Indians on steroids. That's what it looks like. So I always ask myself when this stuff starts happening, why is this happening? And guess what I found out? Maybe our students aren't going off to college at the rate we thought they were going off to college. Take Esperanza High School, for instance, approximately 1,500 students. The fall of 2020, 99 applied, 94 got accepted, and 37 went off to a 4-year CSU. Really?
You will have to end your remarks at
That's
this point.
deplorable. No wonder you need to teach it then.
Thank you.
Shall I just start? I feel like I'm not qualified for that. So I'm just here to talk about the new, I don't even know that it's new, but the student symptom decision tree. And I know that that is something that the CDHP has handed down to our district. But my son came home in tears this week. A coach pulled him aside and kind of encouraged a vaccination on him. And I know that's not okay. And I can move beyond that. But this decision tree is setting everyone up for discrimination. A coach can discriminate if you are or not. And you can say, well, coaches can't know that. Well, how are they not going to know when you can sit in class, school can get your money, but then for 14 days, they're not on the sidelines, or maybe they're on the sidelines, but they're the only one in a mask and they're perfectly healthy. Like, that is not how sports are supposed to be. That's not how dance is supposed to be, or any of the extracurricular activities. It's coercion. There's a reward of freedom for our children if they get the vaccination. It's just not okay. Thank you.
The next speaker is Debbie Morgan, followed by Carrie Mock, followed by Pam Lane. The first name was Debbie Morgan.
Hi, my name is Debbie Morgan. I'll make this quite brief. 2021 public school rankings by the State Education of California was listed 41 of 51 states. This is so sad with our education. How about our teachers do a much better job teaching, reading, writing, and arithmetic, getting our scores higher and our kids better educated to compete in the real world. I don't want my taxpayer dollars going to ethnic studies or CRT. Massachusetts is highly rated. Don't reinvent the wheel. Look and see what other states are doing that have a much better rate of return with education than California.
Hello, my name is Carrie Mock, and I don't want to be here. I'm tired of sitting on the sidelines waiting for someone else to speak up for me, to advocate for my children. Today, we are here to talk about our children's health and the school board's recommendations and requirements to wear the masks in the classroom, and other things, but I didn't type about that. We, as parents, want the option to choose what is best for our children's health. We want you, our board members, to support these decisions. We need to consider the effect that the school board's enforcement of these mandates have on our youth health. Last year, my daughter was threatened by her Spanish teacher to be forcibly removed from her classroom for pulling down her mask to ask a question. This action could be considered bullying for just pulling down a mask. Teachers need to show empathy instead of anger as students look up to them as role models. Also, we have seen a surge of 50% of suicides in adolescent girls from age 12 to 17. During this pandemic, our youth are suffering from the decisions forced upon them by the school board and the figures of authority. I'm done. Thank you. Hi, my name is Pam Lane. I've lived here since 1963. My husband, myself, and all three of our adult children have gone through the Yorba Linda, Placentia Yorba Linda schools. According to the National School Board, public school is to prepare students for college and the workforce. Only 32% of fourth graders are reading proficiently in California. That is well below the average and behind 25 other states. I would like to see us focus more on spending our money to help our children succeed. I don't know the numbers, but I think enrollment must have declined. I know so many families that have pulled their kids out of the system this year and are doing homeschool or private school. My own grandchildren were supposed to go to Linda Vista, and they're not now because of the CRT, the mask mandate, and the radical sex ed. Parents should be permitted to teach their children those things, those areas. They're sensitive issues, and parents have been entrusted with these children. And we've all heard the science, and I really just think we need to get back to basics and teach education.
Okay, the next three speakers, excuse me, Sarah Phillips, followed by Dawn Brown, followed by Tina Vacher.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Phillips. I'm the teacher librarian at Yorba Linda High School. Tomorrow starts Hispanic Heritage Month. It's a national monthly recognition. Trustee Buck came to my library today and she saw the book display that I have out there. There's also a virtual component on the library's website. You can just go to ylhs.org to check that out. And you can see other previous virtual displays that I've created for like Black History Month, Women's History Month, and so on. I believe it's important to spotlight different voices in our community so that everybody's stories can be told. I'd like to talk about our high school libraries. We do a great deal to support our students, from managing Chromebooks and textbooks to building a collection the students enjoy and that also support the curriculum, providing an inviting multi-use space for our students, and all sorts of other things we do to support our administration, staff, students, and parents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Don Brown. I'm going to try to cut this short on two different topics. One is the mask mandates, and real quickly, just use the science. I mean, right now we know that there's about 0.2% of the deaths are due to COVID, 0.3 are flu. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the science isn't being used. Teachers unions are being used, and that's wrong. Second one is associated with what we're doing on the CRT. My daughter just went through the went through the universities and through California and came home indoctrinated. She calls me a white racist. She calls me a white privileged guy. I am not. And I, you know, they got the thing where you get caught in the whole thing that you can't get out of it, but I'm not. And it's very frustrating to get involved in that. I just want to make sure that everybody asks the question, why CRT? Why do we really need to do that? Aren't we learning history right now? And isn't history important for us to learn and learn it in the right way? I mean, I asked just a couple questions for you. And that is, kids love kids no matter what the colors are until they get to school.
I do have to
Why,
have
why
you
do you
conclude
desire
your
to ruin it
remarks.
for their kids? And why
do need
not
that.
just do history and not ideology?
Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name's Tina Backer. And as I sat down to write, I'm going to read this because I got to go fast because I'm under this constraint. But as I sat down to write what I was going to say tonight in about a minute or less, I realized the absolute insanity of this exercise. Our kids, grandkids, future generations will be impacted by these unconstitutional self-suffocation devices, which prevent not only social cueing for our kids, but increase airway resistance during exhalation and ultimately lead to increased carbon dioxide in the blood. There are so many other points that I could expound on, but that's just not time. Additionally, this is very divisive and naturally segregating implementation of learning called critical race, which catapults us backwards instead of moving forward in unity and acceptance for all, and creates a hate for others, is the most un-American theory I have ever come across. But my point is this: if this panel was truly interested in what we had to say, we would never be limited to 1 minute because you're in a hurry to get home. If you really cared about our kids and the generations to come, you would create time. And I know you're going to cut me off, but I want to tell you something.
I am going to cut you off.
I know
because
you always do,
it's
but
a
it's
limit.
very important. And we pay your.
This is not a town hall. This is our business meeting to take care of what we must do.
So when we come back to
we-
vote, we pay for this time.
We also
So
have
we
a
need more
business
than 1
meeting.
minute.
So
So
please,
my-
if
my
you would
plea to
return
you
to your
is
seat.
to extend
Please
our time to be heard.
Please
1 minute
return
is
to your
insufficient.
seat if you
Do you
would, please.
understand what I'm saying?
I hear you. Please return to your seat. if
Okay,
you
I'm going
would.
to ask one more
I am
time.
asking you to return to
No,
your
I'm
seat.
going to ask you
I
one
am
more time.
asking
You
you.
can ask me.
Okay,
I'm gonna
we will
ask
stand
you.
adjourned for a recess at this time.
Go ahead.
We will recess at 7:24 for 10 minutes. Right. I'd like to call us back into order. I would like to call us back into order at 7:31. We will resume public comment. I want to again reiterate, this is our business meeting. This is held in public as per Ed Code by law. However, we have other business to conduct. And that is why we can and we do, as other board members or other boards do, we limit the time. This is different than an input session like a town hall, something like that. I want to try to help you understand that. That is why we limit the time. Now, we will resume the public comment. Please, if you would, stick to the minute that we have designated. Also, if we can't accomplish that, it is my plan, and it is authorized that we can do this. I will have the room entirely cleared, and we will finish the board meeting without the audience. And we don't want to do that. So I'm just saying, please cooperate. We want to hear everyone, and please keep that in mind. Thank you very much. So let's continue on. The next speaker will be Leah Wissink, followed by Alex McNaughton, followed by Shari Palicky. First speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Leah Wissink. My son is a freshman football player at El Dorado. He's healthy. He's finally enjoying being at school with his friends and playing sports. However, last week we received an email from Principal Davis regarding new protocol for vaxxed and unvaxxed kids. I was appalled. This is segregation wrapped up in medical tyranny. There should be no contact tracing. These policies further divide our children between vaxxed and unvaxxed on a product that is still going through clinical trials. Currently, there are hundreds of lawsuits that have been filed, one just recently by UCI psychiatry professor and director of medical ethics, Dr. Aaron Chiatri. He cites that the vaccine mandate is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution's 14th Amendment. There will be more lawsuits.
Thank you very much.
I want to touch on the same topic that she just discussed, the student symptom decision tree. I won't go through most of the detail. I'll just get to the bullets that I wanted to highlight for the board. When you look at the decisions and the way they're made, the transmission of the virus occurs whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated. There's no difference. The number of deaths related to the COVID vaccine specifically this year is greater than the number of deaths of all the other vaccines we give our children combined.
I ask that everyone remain quiet,
Inflammation
regardless
of
of what the
heart
opinions are that are expressed. I apologize,
no,
Mr.
go ahead.
McNaughton. Please, no matter who's here, we will show respect, please. Thank you very much.
And then the third bullet, just in general, inflammation of the heart in young adults. Why are we even discussing a vaccine that could potentially harm our young children? If you look at those three bullets and the way the decision tree is formed, it appears that they're rewarding the vaccinated, penalizing the unvaccinated, right? And creating an environment where children feel as though they need to be part of the vaccinated crowd, whether their parents agree with it or not. I'm asking the board to please take that into consideration and try and help and fight for our children in regards to that decision tree.
Indoctrination. This word is used a lot, and I want to make sure that everyone in this room and everyone listening in understands what it means to be indoctrinated. Indoctrination means teaching someone to accept a set of beliefs or ideas without questioning them, without having a conversation or critical thinking. So when does this happen in our schools? Assemblies. People are up there, they're talking, they're giving their ideas, they're sharing their beliefs, there's no communication. Speakers. Again, they're talking, they're giving their ideas, they're sharing their beliefs, there's no communication, there's no critical thinking. But the worst is the online programs because the teachers say, okay, class, 30 minutes, go onto this website. And these students are logging in and they're watching videos or they're reading articles and there's no communication. There's no critical thinking. There's no dialogue. That is indoctrination. These large companies that PYLUSD is contracted with are horrific. Please look them up. UCLA, iReady. There's a whole litany of them. Look them up. Look at the CEO's messaging.
Please.
BLM, CRT, it's all
Conclude your
there.
Remarks, Mrs. Pelican. Thank you. Okay, the next three speakers to come forth, Kristen Mortensen, followed by Amber Gribben, followed by Karen Fisher.
Hey, Mr. Superintendent, thank you for your response to the emails, but please do read them before you send an automated response that has nothing to do with the email. PYLUSD is completely discriminating against students who are not fully vaccinated for COVID-19. Right now, if you are directly exposed to somebody who has COVID, either in your home, living with them every day, or next to you at school, and you are fully vaccinated, you can go back to school without having a test. The CDC, I have a printout right here from the CDC. You can get COVID and you can spread it. Now let's look at the same scenario. Somebody who's not vaccinated. They cannot go back to school without 2 negative tests. Should be the same for vaccinated. And they cannot go to extracurricular activities. The vaccinated can. Again, they can still spread it just like anybody else. Now the CDC does say both exposed children have equal chances of spreading and contracting COVID. Fauci himself says the same thing. Children not fully vaccinated will be getting a lesser education and missing out on sports. All children should be treated and be able to participate the same. Let them all go back or make them all stay home. No more discrimination. It shows everybody who is vaccinated and not, when the one has to stay home and the other gets to go.
Thank you.
Hello. So I've been pondering what to say to tonight's meeting since the last meeting, and just kind of waiting to see what unfolded, what was of the utmost immediate importance. And quite honestly, there's just so much. There's so much right now that I'm embarrassed to be part of the education field. However, I'll still hold my head up high because I know there are amazing educators out there and they do not agree with this evil that's plaguing our education system. So at this point, I come to the few things that have already been touched on. And since I know my time's going to run quick, I'm just going to say I'm in full agreement with a lot of the things that have been saying tonight. The masks are ridiculous. I mean, the only 2 places in California you are mandated and required is a medical place and a classroom. That's ridiculous. I mean, you can go to a concert with 1,000 different people and you don't have to wear a mask, but we're masking our children. We could go on and on about that forever. CRT is about as racist as it gets for a program, and it has no place in our public education system. My time's up before I even get to my last one, but please listen to our pleas.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Karen Fisher. I'm the mom of 6 kids, ages 9 to 18. I'm an immigrant to this country, and I'm a first-generation partaker in the American dream. I fled high crime and corruption, and I know what corruption looks like, and you should be ashamed of yourselves because I'm looking at it right now. The money that's being offered and accepted to our schools to hold our kids' education ransom is corruption, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. My kids don't belong to the state, and they are not for sale. I will not be coerced into accepting the dangerous and fictional mandates and curriculum that you are proposing. I do not consent to vaccine mandates, and I oppose the proposed critical race theory. We as parents are all here because we're onto you, and I'm telling you that it's not going to end well for all of you. You're not following the science, you are following the money. The American dream is dying, and it's because of the actions of people like you, and it's going to be a legacy that's going to be on your heads.
the next three speakers to come forth. Emily Roselle, followed by Gaston Castellanos, followed by Galen Diaz.
President Freeman, Galen is not, they left.
Oh, they were,
Yeah,
okay.
Galen, Diaz and Ashley Haney. They are
I
not
apologize, I
speaking.
didn't hear.
They left and they won't be speaking.
Okay, Galen left and Ashley.
And Ashley.
All right, okay. All right, so Gaston Castellanos.
Emily
Oh,
Roselle.
Emily, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I'm trying to keep track of who's
Gaston, too.
still here and who isn't.
Yeah, we do. Totally. It's better than me.
My apologies.
That's
Thank you.
okay.
Please go ahead.
I listened to the Orange County Board meeting from July 27th of this year, discussing a panel of ethics experts. I know Marilyn has attended these forums, and I expect most of you as well as it pertains to your job. It's becoming increasingly apparent how damaging CRT is to the progress of individuals, especially children. I'm asking this board to remove CRT as an option for the ethnic study course during its review. 2 months ago, Ms. Freeman and Ms. Buck voted against parents' rights. With no evidence, no data on children with COVID in our district, only some random US non-vetted COVID numbers on a piece of paper, you voted against a parent's right to choose for their child. The state mandates regarding mass vaccines, health decisions are constantly removing parents out of the decisions for our own children. Ms. Freeman and Ms. Buck, it is clear you align with the state and you don't see the value of parents having rights to our own children. I have been asleep in this district in the past, but I'm awake. We are awake. We need to be a part of our children's education. Lastly, please don't approve agenda item 22. There was absolutely no parent reviews on her website related to the trainings. Thanks.
Hello, Madam President, members of the board. I'll be very brief. First of all, congratulations on the low infection rates in our school district right now. I think that's proof positive that what you're doing is working and the health and safety of our children are the most important thing. So keep it up. Second, whenever you're assessing controversial items that come before you, please leave your own personal prejudices at the door. Here, you're here to represent 26,000 students, not just the students that look like you or may share your faith. All of our students deserve your protection. And finally, I hope that you're going to be listening to all of the parents, not just the loudest voices in the room, but all of the voices in the room. It's been my experience that many times the loudest voices are the most untruthful voices. Follow the science, follow your conscience, and you'll be fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Please show respect. We are trying to do that for every speaker, regardless of their point of view. Thank you. All right. Ashley, you said, has departed. Okay. All right. And you said Galen had left. Okay. All right. The next three speakers, Pam M., followed by Curtis McCatherine, followed by Andy Falco.
So the bylaws of
McCatherine.
this board need to be reviewed by December of this year. We can choose to ask them to change the bylaws so that we can speak more and not be limited to 1 minute.
Per a FOIA request, $226,000 in pool fees were collected for just the Yorba Linda High School pool from 2009 to 2021. But that same FOIA request showed no records of spending $1 on repairs, upgrades, maintenance, etc. If the purpose of collecting user fees is to recover costs related to the maintenance of the facilities, where did the money go? The district paid 100% of a contract fee to a consultant that conducted the facility fee study, but didn't complete 100% of the work. The key piece of work missing would have been very helpful for everyone. The fees of surrounding school districts to make sure that we're competitive and comparable. Why didn't the prior board have better oversight over this kind of behavior? For the Yorba Linda High School pool, the district charges $120 to $180 an hour,
when surrounding clubs charge much lower fees for a pool twice the size, ranging from $15 an hour to $84 an hour. The same consultant got a new contract in July to geocode all the student IDs in this district to students' home addresses.
I do
the
need
list
to have
value,
you
the square
wrap up your
footage, Number of
remarks.
bedrooms. Is that the full
I do need
description
to
the
have you
staff provided to the board
conclude,
in their July board packet? I
I
don't think
would
so.
like
It's
to have
listed
you
as a
conclude your
demographic study.
remarks, please.
We need to do better.
I would
asked for a
like to
vote
have
on
you
facility-
conclude. Thank you very much.
Madam President, members of the board, superintendents. It's 7:47. The polls close in 13 minutes on the recall. And what we have been seeing is the efforts of a party who needs to keep its base energized rather than paying attention to the science, facts, or other issues that need to be discussed. In a CNN exit poll, which I'm sure we'll see more data on later, about 45% of the people who voted today support Newsom's policies on the pandemic. Only 1/3 have called them too strict, with the remainder saying that they should be more strict. I would like to remind you all, you represent all of the parents in this district, as I know you are well aware, and ask that possibly in the future you consider closing these meetings to public comment, because I do not believe that we are having a civil discussion anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. I please show respect for any speaker who comes to the podium. We would expect it for any speaker. Thank you very much. Yes,
Well, it's
Mr.
hard to follow
Felton.
that. I have over the last year sent actual science to these group of people over here that has showed the actual science behind whether masks work or not. I've interviewed 10 doctors over the last year that have shared with me their actual real life experience in the operating rooms, in the hospitals that are treating COVID. They all say the paper and cloth masks that our kids are being forced to wear do not work. They all say that. I have asked in return for the science that they're using for masking our kids, and I've never received anything. I've asked other people who say that masks work to send me the science. I've never been sent anything. The kids are not even the vulnerable. We are the vulnerable. All of you are the vulnerable. And not one of you, and maybe one or two, strangely enough, are wearing masks, but none of you have made the choice not to wear a mask. We want the choice to tell our kids whether they should wear a mask or not. We know if our kids are vulnerable or not. They are very strong and they are healthy. I have Lastly, I was at the Orange County Board of Supervisors meeting today and specifically heard them say, we have left it up to each school district to decide what to do when it comes to the guidelines. So what is the problem? It is up to you guys. We have spoken, the majority here, and we do not want our kids masked. We want the choice of whether having our kids masked or not.
Thank you. The next three speakers, Courtney Jacques, Paul Kunkel, and Linda Cohn.
When I was a kid growing up, I vividly remembered the district pushing a slogan called DARE. It was a program that taught students to be bold and not give in to peer pressure. Fast forward to present day, and not only has our district fostered an environment of peer pressure, but with current vaccine protocols, it has effectively segregated the student population. The strategy appears to punish the unvaccinated until they just give in to your desired outcome. You're a group of adults manipulating a vulnerable age group who just want to fit in and go with the flow. You're indeed peer pressuring them into getting vaccinated against their will or beliefs by withholding attendance to school, sports, and extracurricular activities. You divided the school into two categories, vaccinated and unvaccinated, and different rules apply to each group, and it's not fair to our students. I do like your new slogan, however, noticed, needed, and nurtured. We noticed you weren't vaccinated, so there will be consequences. We needed you to get the shot, but you didn't listen to us. We nurture vaccinated students while your child languishes at home for 14 days with each exposure point. I know the response you have been directed to give us is to visit the CDC website and that your hands are tied. At some point, you have to put our students before your careers and not do the politically correct thing, but the right thing.
Please. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Paul Kunkel. My daughter goes to one of the high schools and she joined water polo this year, excited about making friends. Last year, she spent the entire year being chased down by a transgender kid who made fun of her for something or another and made her life a living hell for an entire year. All she wants this year is to have a good year, to have fun, to make new friends, but she has to worry about all of this stuff you're shoving down our children's mouths and in their ears. And it just makes me absolutely sick. And I feel so bad for my daughter. I want to see her succeed. I want to see her go on and be somebody, not somebody who's a drain on the system, but somebody who is going to go out, earn her own way, and fight for people, not lay around and expect somebody else to do it for her. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Why is an unvaccinated child so threatening to a vaccinated teacher? And why are teachers bullying children to get vaccinated? We cannot have a vaccine mandate. It should be illegal, immoral, unconstitutional. I'll cover as much as I can. First, COVID-19 is almost certainly a gain-of-function virus. You need to research that item. Second, Robert Malone, widely recognized as a key innovator of messenger RNA technology, argues that this type of vaccine should not be universally given. In fact, if 100% get this vaccine, the results could backfire. Third, COVID infection breakthroughs among the vaccinated are widespread. They're not coding it in Orange County, but we are hearing that they are widespread. Fourth, VAERS data should not be ignored. And I know what the arguments are against VAERS. I know that, but don't ignore this data. What about natural immunity? And why are we being bribed and threatened when the number one resistors to the vaccine are medical care professionals and first responders? My time is up.
Thank you. The next three speakers, Chris Mortensen, Chris Morgan, and Patricia Hanzo. Happy to repeat. Chris Mortensen, Chris Morgan, and Patricia Hanzo. It would appear that the first speaker I called is no longer in the audience or coming forward. So please, if Mr. Morgan, if you'd like to proceed.
My name is Chris Morgan. I grew up in Yorba Linda. I'm a business owner in Yorba Linda. I go to church in Yorba Linda, and I'm raising my kids in Yorba Linda. And it's really, really sad to see what's going on here. I want to tell you my personal experience. I just contracted COVID a little over a month ago, got the Delta variant. My whole family got it. We got through it. It was about 3 or 4 days. We were feeling down, feeling a little ill. We were able to take a lot of vitamin D supplement. We were able to get through it pretty easily. My kids got it. My 2 younger kids got it, 2 and a 4-year-old. The extent of their COVID disease was a runny nose, not even a temperature, not even anything. And so it's pretty insane. I see it from my point that you're looking to mask our children when they can get through it and their immune systems fight it better than anything. The data shows that COVID is less deadly than the common cold. Why don't you look it up? 0.02% of deaths from COVID, 0.03% of deaths from flu.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Morgan.
We really need to reject QAnon and those conspiracy theories. I am here to talk about items 20, 22, 23, 24, and 28. We approved, or you approved as a board, the Local Control Accountability Plan, the LCAP. So that means that all those programs need to be followed through to fulfill the obligations in the LCAP. Those include the outreach efforts, assemblies, which we support, curriculum, applications, and programs which were approved in the LCAP. On another point, we ask that the district enforce masking, virus tracking, transparency, and testing at each school site in order to keep in-person school and avoid disruptions in education for over 24,000 students. We strongly encourage oversight, and accountability. We expect the staff and the principals to implement all the measures in place. Safety first.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next speakers to come forth, Kathy Satchel, Bridget Tanner, and Dee Potter. Well, I just got an email. That's why I thought maybe it could be him.
My name is Kathy Satchel. I was a teacher at Placentia Yorba Linda School District for 8 years. I've taught for 32 years. The reason I'm here is on Sunday, I had one of your parents with tears in their eyes talk to one of the board members here and was worried about their child having to get the COVID shot. And I was just astounded. I'm sorry. In the beginning of COVID, I've been obsessed with finding out what is everything about it because it didn't sound right to me. None of it sounded right to me. So I'm here today to talk about COVID mandates. Do you realize that only that 99.97% of children from 20 below are not affected by COVID? You will also note that it's an experimental drug. And if you're going to experiment with the children in your district, then you need to tell the parents what's in the COVID vaccine, which you cannot do.
Thank you very much for your remarks. Thank you.
By the way, I'm going to be trying to run for the school board.
Good evening. My name is Bridget Tanner. I have 3 kids in this district. This district and this city is full of good, family-oriented people who have high standards, not only for our children, but our society too. And now at these meetings, you are realizing that we have high standards for you as well. We are involved parents who believe in teaching and instilling in our kids attributes of kindness, honesty, accepting and loving others, and working hard for what they want. If we are at the point that we are telling any child that because of the color of their skin that they are not able or capable of achieving what they have worked so hard for because they have either been oppressed or have been an oppressor simply because of the skin color they were born with is not only against the attributes that we as parents have worked so hard to instill in our children, it is simply wrong. This is what critical race theory says, and ultimately this will be what is taught if this district allows this to happen. My point to you tonight is that we as parents need to know that we are being heard by you, our elected school board. A parent's voice should be the most important, not your opinion or your view. You are hearing from us in large numbers now because you have lost our trust.
Thank you.
Good evening. I mentioned a presentation during the recess when we were all discussing as parents that was done on July at the OC school board, and it was quite enlightening. And I really hope, in fact, I would expect that each of you let us know whether or not you observed that presentation or you read the notes on that presentation. That presentation became very apparent to me. I had to come with some terms, like some feelings in my heart, because I was a little bit concerned when I read the credentials, and the credentials were there. And I started to realize that we have been divided completely in every single group. And that's what critical race theory is going to finish. Through this presentation, I was able to come to the conclusion that critical race theory is incredibly damaging to our students and our nation. It focuses on division, oppression, victimhood. It's indoctrination of evil, encourages division, labeling, emotional decision-making, instant gratification, and low standards. Look at what happened this summer. That was instant gratification, and that was trying during riots. That's what we're teaching our children to do.
Thank you very much. The next two speakers remaining, Sherry Boone and Sonia Dalawal.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Shani Boone. I am the parent of a high school junior, and my son just graduated and is off to college this weekend. I actually am really just here to ask everyone to support all 26,000 students in this district, no matter what color or gender they identify as, or ethnicity or religion or race or any of that. I just ask you to support everyone, no matter what or who you are or how you identify. Know that there are people out there that need your support. So I ask you to do that, please. And the way that we can do that is by training our wellness staff and our counselors to support students who are different or who are struggling, to support. I've heard some people talk about the various applications that are used in the classroom, New Zealand, things like that. I ask you to allow our kids to have some critical reasoning by utilizing those systems and then thinking on their own and talking with their parents and their teachers.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sonia Dalawal. I'm a mother of 2 students in the district, and I'm also a physician. I have 14 years of higher education in science. I'm here to urge you to please represent all of the constituents. Please represent all of your students. Please understand that what you guys hear at these meetings is a highly skewed version of what everyone actually thinks. Please, I urge you, if there are major decisions to be made, send out a survey to all the parents in the district. Let everybody be heard, not just the loud voices. Ask everyone how they feel about these major decisions. Please follow public health guidelines made by actual scientists and physicians. Please, physicians wear masks for sometimes more than 12 hours, and they manage to save lives while doing so. Nothing happens to their CO2 levels. They're fine. We wear masks to protect ourselves and protect our patients, and we are the ones who study the science behind these things. Most of the hospitalized patients have been unvaccinated in the last few months. So, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council Members Buck and Freeman.
Thank you. Hopefully I made notes on that. Okay. Again, we made it through. Thank you, everyone. Appreciated having everyone come forward, and we made it through. Thank you. Okay. With that, we are going to move on in our agenda, and our next person would be our student board member, Lauren Fair. And we have a report, and I know you'll tell us some more. Am I not being heard? Oh, am I not being heard well in the back of the room? I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Thank you. We now have our student board report. Our student board member is Lauren Fair, and she's going to do her student report for us.
Good evening, President Freeman, trustees, Superintendent Dr. Jim Sasa, and executive cabinet members. I'm glad to be here tonight to share recent happenings from our high schools and alternative programs. Over at Buena Vista Virtual Academy is growing fast. Over 200 students have joined the school since the start of August. The school is excited to offer a wide range of virtual classes and enrichment activities to students. BVVA will begin offering STEM classes for all the students in grades 1st through 9th at the end of the month. These classes, titled Let's Explore STEM, Coding Games with Scratch and Web Development, will be taught online by Dreams for Schools instructors. At El Camino Real High School, the Raptors welcomed students back with this year's motto, Be Here, Be You, Belong. Especially exciting was a student created a mural which was completed the first 3 days under supervision of the digital design teacher, Reed Peterson. It was a great low-stress way to welcome students back and support the school core values of collaboration and innovation. I've included a picture of the mural in my report for the trustees to view. El Dorado High School recognizes the positive school culture and bursting at the seams for the Golden Hawks. To kick off the school year, El Dorado captured a school-wide photo of over 2,000 students and staff on the turf on the first day and held a well-attended school dance. The Golden Hawks also won back the bell in their annual crosstown rivalry football game against Valencia High School with a score of 28-6. Overall, the school has already become a stronger together through the PBIS Foundation and the core of what El Dorado believes most: spirit never sleeps at El Dorado High School. Esperanza just finished a successful first 2 weeks of the school with a pep rally, more dance, and a football game. Students have been excited to get involved on campus again and now preparing for their homecoming weekend. The Aztecs homecoming football game and rally are on Friday, September 24th and Saturday, September 25th. Esperanza students started the school year strong by creating various clubs to promote involvement across campus. The school's annual Club Rush Week will take place at the beginning of October. George Key School Venture Academy students are busy getting back to school. This year, the school is focused on increasing functional communication skills. Training has started for aides on how to communicate with children with complex communication needs. The school is fortunate to partner with CSUF professor and speech language pathologist, Dr. Lisa Aaron Davidson, to learn about evidence-based practices in communication. Venture Academy has also been busy developing relationships with local businesses owners to increase job training opportunities for students. Bristol Farms and Blake's Barbecue are two of the latest business partners that will be working with the district's adults at Venture. Parkview School's student council and leadership teams are excited to return to campus to hold elections, which will be followed by the Panthers' annual meet and greet game and holiday Cheerios food drive. Valencia High School Tiger Tube Live debuted as an elective class this school year in order to enhance the school's already strong video production program. The class will allow students to explore the art of live television broadcast by live streaming sports, performing arts, and other school events. Students will also integrate equipment setup, production planning, graphic design, networking, script, and performance broadcasting during the year-long class. Valencia's National Honor Society will once again offer Tiger Tutoring 4 days per week this school year starting September 20th. This service will support students with a place to get assistance for homework. Tutors will also offer assistance via Zoom for local elementary school students who need assistance. Tiger Tutoring is offered Monday through Friday in the Valencia Library from 3 to 4 p.m. A late bus is also provided for students who require transportation after tutoring. Way to go, VHS. Over at Yorba Linda High School, over 1,600 students returned to campus with a week of welcome, which included an alternative bell schedule to accommodate daily activities and a welcome rally. Each student was given an individualized gift by the first day, followed by a warm welcome from teachers, staff, and administrators. The theme of this year is Get Connected, which promotes inclusive and positive campus culture. Through this year's free lunch program, Yorba Linda School is serving 200 additional lunches per day than usual. As a result, the Mustangs have opened 2 more lunch lines and staff have volunteered to work along nutrition services workers to serve food, supervise lines, and make signs to streamline the process. Way to go, Mustangs.
Thank you very much. And there's so much more for us to take in. It was really notable that the baccalaureate program there at Valencia, all 72 graduated. everyone who entered was graduated. That's great. Sorry, I apologize. Thanks for reminding me. I was saying that in her report under Valencia, it was pretty amazing actually to say that all 72 in the IB program, the International Baccalaureate, earned their diploma this year. So that's tremendous considering all the challenges everyone's been facing. Well, you're in your senior year and she's at Yorba Linda High, if you weren't familiar with that fact. So if you would tell us as far as what you've been doing and learning and so forth at YLHS, as well as in the district as a whole, how do you feel that's kind of prepared you for once you leave and go on into the life beyond high school?
Yes, being at Yorba Linda High School and being within the district, I feel like it's prepared me by providing like higher academic classes, like AP and honors classes that I like being involved in. That's pushed me to be harder or kind of push myself a little bit harder in my academics and think more critically and kind of let me go deeper into certain topics. It's also got me to be more involved in my community and with on-campus activities. I've also learned to have stronger leadership that will continue to benefit myself with anything I do. And the staff there as well has always been very supportive with anything that the students need, whether it's with school or just anything mentally. Like they have been very supportive, especially with my personal life right now. They've been very supportive, and I know that both Yorba Linda High School and the district has set me up for a successful future that I'm excited to be when I graduate. So,
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're really happy to have you part of our team.
Thank you.
Very glad to have you here tonight. Okay, Superintendent's Report.
Thank you. Well, good evening, President Freeman, trustees, and executive cabinet members. On Tuesday, August 31st, we welcomed all of our students, staff, and families back to full-time learning across our 34 school campuses. Our first day was an incredibly exciting and remarkably cool one as students of all ages, transitional kindergarten through 12th grade, met new teachers and staff members, reunited with friends, and began the 21-22 school year. It was also unlike any other, as many students were returning to campuses for the first time since the start of the pandemic in March 2020. We look forward to the year ahead and appreciate all of the planning and preparation our staff did to ensure we experienced a successful start. As I shared in my back to school video last week, it is no secret that we had hoped to leave the difficulties of COVID-19 behind us last school year. However, the recent surge of cases across the state and nation has made us realize that we will once again require patience, flexibility, and grace as we navigate the ever-changing nature of the pandemic. By following the mandates outlined in the California Department of Public Health's COVID-19 public health guidance for K-12 schools, we are able to offer full-time in-person instruction to all students safely, even if pandemic dynamics shift throughout the school year. Schools and school districts across the state, including private and charter schools, are not permitted to lessen the mandates we are under from the California Department of Public Health. We realize these ever-changing mandates can be frustrating at times for our students and families. I can assure you they are frustrating for staff as well. I want to express my gratitude for the continued understanding of our students, employees, staff, and families as we continue to abide by all such requirements from the state. Next, our friends at the City of Placentia, as well as the California Office of Traffic Safety and Walk and Rollers nonprofit organization, are hosting the Placentia Walk and Roll Festival this Saturday, September 18th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Kramer Middle School in Placentia. Students and families are encouraged to attend and participate in free bike tune-ups, skills stations, giveaway, and more. Additional information about this event is available on our website at www.pylusd.org/news. We are grateful to have such supportive local partners who prioritize the safety and well-being of our entire school district community. It's hard to believe that it's been 20 years since the attacks our nation endured on September 11th, 2001. Each year, our school district joins the nation in remembering the thousands of Americans who lost their lives as a result of these attacks, including the brave first responders. Every year on September 11th, known as Patriot Day, PYLUSD facilities fly flags at half staff, and all schools hold special activities in remembrance. This year was no different, as schools encouraged students to wear red, white, and blue, decorated campuses with patriotic colors, held moments of silence and flag ceremonies, shared about the day's historical significance through morning and video announcements, and so much more. PYL will never forget. And in closing, we have a very special announcement to share this evening. Each year, the California School Boards Association, known as CSBA, presents the Golden Gavel Award to one deserving school board member across the entire state. The Golden Gavel Award recipient exemplifies best practices in effective governance and boardsmanship, and reflects the depth and breadth of governance decisions supporting programs that are necessary to address students' changing needs. The nomination process for this award is extensive, and board members must meet a long list of criteria to even be considered. Tonight, I'm proud to announce that our very own Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District Board President, Ms. Karen Freeman, has been selected for this distinguished honor. Let's give her a round of applause. President Freeman was nominated for the Golden Gavel Award by her board colleague, Vice President Carrie Buck. As many of you know, President Freeman has served as a dedicated member on our Board of Education since 1989. Prior to the school district's merger in 1989, President Freeman also served on the Board of Education for the Yorba Linda School District. It's no secret that she has displayed exemplary boardsmanship and has functioned as a trustworthy and community-minded elected official, qualities that have sustained her a seat on the board for over 3 decades. CSBA plans to officially recognize President Freeman in December, and we will take time during a future board meeting to properly honor her and share all about her accomplishments. Congratulations, President Freeman. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, well, we are at staff presentations, and as we get ready for that, I'm looking to see if the instructional supervisor, Linda Skipper, she's still here. She's waving. We also have a very strong partnership with North Orange County Regional Occupational Program, commonly referred to as ROP. So for example, the mural that you were talking about in your report, Reed Peterson is actually an ROP instructor who is at El Camino, and I actually saw that when it was being painted when I stopped by the school. So we have at our various schools, our high schools, we have ROP instructors. And Mrs. Linda Skipper is our trustee instructional supervisor for all of our school programs for ROP. Linda, just briefly stand if you would. I'm going to embarrass you, but she has an important role in serving our students from ROP in this district. And thank you for being here this evening. We appreciate it. Okay, so we are at staff presentations. So I will turn it over to our superintendent.
Thank you, President Freeman. The next item on tonight's agenda is being presented at the request of a community member. The specific request was to modify the current use of facilities fee structure. And as a result, Mr. David Giordano, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, and Mr. Paul Juarez, Director of Use of Facilities, will provide the board with a presentation that includes an overview of the Use of Facilities program, as well as the fee structure that was subsequently approved by the board in August 2019. Mr. Giordano.
Thank you, Dr. Alsasser, President Freeman, and members of the board. Tonight, Mr. Paul Juarez and I are going to provide an overview of our district's use of facilities program. Mr. Juarez currently serves as the director that oversees our program, and he also oversees our energy management program as well. So here's a look at tonight's agenda. First, we're going to provide an overview of the district's use of facilities program, and then discuss the key responsibilities and support functions for this department. Next, we're going to review the key provisions that are contained in the California Civic Center Act, Ed Code Section 38134, and then the California Code of Regulations, all which govern our use of school facilities. We're also going to discuss why the district initially conducted a fee study that was finalized back in early 2019, the process that we utilized to perform that fee study, including the stakeholder engagement component. And lastly, we're going to finish up with a review of our cost recovery history and then the current program status. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Juarez, who's going to provide an overview of our program.
Good evening. As outlined in the Civic Center Act, which Mr. Giordano will expand on, district facilities are to be made available as civic centers for the community when not in use for school purposes under specified guidelines. A key responsibility of the program is to oversee external athletic groups in regards to facility allocation, scheduling, communication of rules and regulations, assignment of support staff, verification of required insurance, and billing. In a typical year, there are more than 16,000 external athletic events that are held on district facilities. Use of facility staff works closely with the high school athletic directors and site administration to determine when external teams can have access to district facilities, as internal sports programs have priority scheduling. The types of groups served by the department range from the recreation to club teams and include such organizations as Junior United Soccer Association, JUSA, Advantage Football League, AFL, Elite Aquatic Sports Team, East, Swim Team of Placentia, STOP, Orange County Water Polo Foundation, and North County Sports Association, to name a few. Additionally, we serve the city of Yorba Linda and Placentia in various events. The district theater, which includes the Performing Arts Center at El Dorado High School, the auditorium at Valencia High School, and the forum at Yorba Linda High School, are also scheduled and staffed by the Use of Facilities Department. The theaters, which are heavily used, differ from sports in that the department is responsible for scheduling and staffing for external as well as internal events. In a typical year, approximately 1,000 plays, church services, instrumental and choir concerts, dance show, as well as other events take place in these facilities. Mr. Giordano will now cover some of the rules and regulations governing school facilities.
So existing law, which is known as the Civic Center Act, it provides the statutory authority and the legal framework regarding the use of school district facilities by our external groups. Now, this act authorizes the school district to grant the use of school facilities or grounds as civic centers for specific purposes upon the terms and conditions that are set forth by our governing board. The law also authorizes school districts to charge a fee not to exceed the school district's direct costs for the use of school facilities or grounds by entities that promote youth and school activities or sports league activities for use. The fee classifications are defined in Education Code Section 38-134, as well as our board policy 1330, use of school facilities. And here's a look at those fee classifications that are defined in Education Code Section 38-134, as well as board policy. So in proportion to the organization's use of school facilities or grounds, direct costs include all the following. Includes the share of costs of supplies, utilities, janitorial services, services of school district employees, and salaries paid to school district employees to operate and maintain our school facilities or grounds. Direct costs also include the share of costs for maintenance, repair, restoration, and the refurbishment of school facilities or grounds. The fair rental value costs include all the direct cost fees that we just mentioned, plus the amortized costs of the school facilities or grounds. These fees must be charged for entertainment events or meetings where an admission fee is charged or contributions are solicited, and the net receipts are not expended for the welfare of our district students or for charitable purposes. The California Code of Regulations, this is section 14041. It further requires that school district adopt a fee schedule that includes the hourly fee for each specific school facility or grounds when charging fees pursuant to the Civic Center Act. This law also further defines how school to use fees are to be calculated. So why did our district complete a fee study? Well, there are significant changes that were made in law that occurred between 2012 and 2013, which made it necessary for the district to update our board policy 1330 governing the use of school facilities. The board policy was updated in August of 2017 to align with the changes in law, including the changes to the fee classifications. In the following month, this was in September of 2017, the board approved an agreement with an independent expert to perform a fee study. The study was necessary in order to update the district's fee table using current district cost data and to ensure alignment with the Civic Center Act requirements. It's also important to note that there were two local bond measures that were passed by voters. This was Measure Y in 2002 and then Measure A in 2008 that provided approximately $300 million in local funding and another $300 million in state matching funds to upgrade district facilities. And without a dedicated funding source to maintain these major taxpayer investments, it's important that staff periodically review and update the district's use of facility fee table to ensure cost recovery of facility use by those outside groups. Additionally, each year, our district spends approximately $2 million to maintain all of our grass fields throughout the district. Prior to the fee study, there was no mechanism to recover the cost incurred by the district for grass field usage by the outside groups. As a result of that, discretionary revenue in the general fund was used to cover all of these costs. Of course, these resources could have been used to fund other district priorities. Likewise, the cost to maintain other district facilities continue to increase each and every year as well. And to ensure our district is able to maintain high quality facilities for all of our students, staff, and our community, it's important that we continue to recover costs incurred for the outside facility use. Regarding the process that we utilized to conduct the fee study, our staff reached out to multiple companies that specialize in this type of work. Ultimately, it was Cooperative Strategies that was selected as the district's independent expert to perform that fee study. Company is well known as one of the premier consultants used by school districts to perform this type of detailed fee analysis. A preparation of that fee study involved an extensive and detailed collection of district data, which was used to calculate school district direct costs. Study also included updated fee calculations that are based on that district cost data, as well as the Civic Center Act requirements that were in place at the time. Currently, several of our surrounding districts are going through a similar process to update their respective fee tables, and the majority of these districts are using Cooperative Strategies to complete that required analysis. So after the fee study was finalized, this was back in February of 2019. During the following month, our staff held a staff meeting with the key stakeholder groups to discuss the results of that fee study, review the proposed fee schedule, and then gather feedback from the different stakeholder groups. There were over a dozen representatives from various groups that were able to participate in that discussion. And the majority of stakeholders in attendance requested a phased implementation timeline for the proposed fee revisions. Additional concerns raised by some of the groups included maintenance of district facilities and then perceived rate disparity across similar facilities. In the weeks following the stakeholder meeting, our staff received some additional feedback from several of those user groups. And to address their concerns, staff used the feedback to develop a multi-year phased implementation plan for the proposed fee revisions. Plan would allow user groups time to adjust the new fee schedule over a period spanning nearly 2 years. So in August of 2019, that new fee schedule was approved by the Board of Education. Any reduction in fees per the fee study went into effect immediately upon board approval, and the greatest reductions were seen in fees associated with the use of our theaters. To address the stakeholder feedback that we discussed earlier, that new fee schedule became effective April 1st of 2020, a full 8 months after board approval, and then was phased in over a 2-year period with 50% of applicable fee increases effective April 1 of 2020, and then the remaining 50% effective April 1 of 2021. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Juarez to provide a review of the program's cost recovery history and then the current status as well.
This slide summarizes our cost recovery history for the use of facilities program over the last several years. Fees recovered during the 17-18 and 18-19 fiscal years were based on the prior fee table. Over 60% of the fees recovered in those fiscal years related to external use of district theaters. As you can see from this slide, 2019-20 facility use was severely impacted by the pandemic-related shutdown of all school facilities and grounds in March of 2020. Up until the shutdown, facility usage by external groups was high, and the program was on track to exceed prior year cost recovery. Although the district began to reopen school facilities and grounds to external groups beginning October 2020, many groups were seriously impacted by state and local health regulations, which limited the organization's return to facility use. Though sports were heavily affected, theater use experienced the largest reduction in use as indoor regulations remained extremely strict. Even today, challenges continue due to the pandemic. The department is working closely with external groups regarding state and local health regulations to facilitate a return to facility use. Activity for the month of July and August has increased, although theater use is recovering slowly. The program is excited to see a return to use by existing groups. Additionally, there has been a significant increase in first-time group interest in using district facilities. With that, we'd like to open up to any questions the board may have.
Board members, please, any questions? Ms. Sanderson?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions. And most of my questions don't really have to pertain to your presentation, but more to the original study that was done by Cooperative Strategies. And I'm wondering if it's possible to have them come back to answer some of their questions. I mean, I can give examples of what I'm looking at, but if you look at table 5, table 15, and table 22, I have a lot of questions on how these numbers for proportional use came to be. I just did some simple math, and the numbers don't really add up. And so I'm just, I'll give you an example. It says for table 5 that it was calculated 180 days of school. It was 7 hours. And that calculation in the study comes out to 1,836 hours. But if I do the math correctly with my fancy iPhone thing, it comes out to 1,260. So I'm concerned that these numbers were used to come up with our proportional use. And if these numbers are not correct, if the basis of our proportional use are not accurate, then everything going after that is incorrect. And that same thing happened with outdoor facilities as well. The pool fees was correct, but I have some questions about how that number was also generated, the hours. So I'm just wondering if they could come back and do a presentation. I know you guys did not do the study. I just have questions, and I just kind of curious on how those came to be.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Anderson. Absolutely, I think we can invite Cooperative Strategies back and go through the fee study in detail. I don't think that would be an issue at all. I think when you look at that fee study, it was very time intensive. You know, that process took well over a year to complete. And really what they were doing is they were looking at facility usage. They were looking at facility schedules, fee applications, taking all that information, gathering all of our cost data as well. So they literally went through all of our financial system data, and we had multiple financial systems because we transitioned in the process. So there's a lot of detailed analysis that they did, but I'm sure they'd be happy to come in and explain, you know, the basis of some of those calculations. That report is pretty detailed. I've gone through it, but it's been a while. It was completed back in February of 2019. And so it's been some time since I went through it. So I'd be happy to invite them back.
Okay, thank you.
And that might be something we would have as a standalone as opposed to.
Yeah, so I would suggest if we do that, we bring them back in like a 5 o'clock workshop prior to board meeting starting at 6 o'clock. Future meeting.
Okay. All right. Additional question. Oh, did you have more? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and I'd also really like to see the comparison chart of the facilities from the other districts that the study is. It's not shown in the original study, and we didn't show it today. And I'm just that was one of the main stakeholder feedbacks was they were worried that our fees or whatever were unjust. And so I just think it'd be really good to see that since it was a stakeholder comment.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Absolutely. We can provide that information. When we did the analysis, where they did the study, this was again back in February of 2019, that was wrapped up. Our staff went in and did comparisons of surrounding districts, and we've got that data that we've had happy to share with you.
Okay, thank you.
My question would be about, I believe it's the 501c3, the nonprofits, which would give coaches in our district, if they had a type of club team and they had 51% of people from our city. using or on a team that they could apply for the nonprofit status. And I think part of the issue is that as of July 22nd, when a group contacted Orange Unified School District, their nonprofit is $15 an hour to use the pool. And I know that Irvine has a nonprofit status too. And so I think the question is that how come we have not provided a nonprofit status to people in our district who want it?
Yeah, another good point. So thank you, Mrs. Blade. So when you look at our fee schedule, there's three basic categories. You have the internal groups, which is really all of our internal groups that would be using our facilities, our sports teams.
Mhm.
You also have direct cost groups, and those are your nonprofits. And then you have the fair value group, which is really your for-profits. So the majority of our nonprofits fall in that direct cost category. When you look at PTAs and booster groups, for example, those are really outside. They're sort of in between an internal group and a direct cost group. We don't charge for their use because their school activities are directly related to the school, but the majority of the nonprofits are categorized in that direct cost group.
Are any of our coaches or any of the people who have club teams, are they in that nonprofit group?
Yes, that's where they're categorized. Yes.
Is there a number in which amount of students that are needed in order to provide that nonprofit tag?
No, it's really, and I can let Paul speak to this. He's probably more well-spoken on this particular topic. It's really just a designation of that nonprofit status that they might file. So, you want to expand on that, Paul?
Sure. I think the benefit that they would have with how many students are enrolled in our district is for priority when it comes to use. But as far as nonprofit, the majority of them are already nonprofit, and that's that. I think that's all that's needed for that portion.
So, well, if coaches have a club team and they have a nonprofit status, is their fees being reduced, or are they paying?
They're in that direct. Yes.
So would
direct
that be something in which we could look at as a board in order to change? If I've got a coach that has a nonprofit team on the weekend and wants to use facilities, would we be able to charge a different amount from outside boosters that are wanting to use that same facility?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Youngblood. That's actually a question that we have posed to legal counsel, because there's those specific categories that are included in the Civic Center Act, those categories that we reviewed earlier. There's really no way to tweak those categories. If we start to charge,
Excuse me, this is not a public discussion. This is our meeting. Thank you. Continue.
if we start to charge differently between the groups, we could be subject to some type of discrimination claim. So we have to be careful not to create different fee schedules that are for some groups versus others. So it's just, we definitely would have to review that with legal counsel. But I think it could be problematic if we were trying to give certain groups a preferential rate.
But it would be acceptable if it were a flat rate across the board?
Correct. Correct.
And do you know how these pool fees were done? I know we have a smaller pool than Irvine, and Irvine's charging, as of this year, they're charging $84 an hour. And they have twice the size of a pool that we do, but we're charging $120 an hour. And can you also tell me what the custodian fees are per hour?
Yeah.
Because we raised that, I think, to $48 an hour.
Yeah, we can provide additional detail on those numbers, but we'd have to reach out to those districts and get that feedback. I know they just went through a use of facilities fee study themselves, and they just adjusted their rates, and I don't have those. Do you have to have them, Paul?
The rates for them?
For Irvine Unified?
Yes, I can
Okay.
get those I can get that for.
Okay. I'd be happy to provide that information. I know that they did just go through a fee study, and those rates have gone up.
I can't speak about the
Okay.
So we worked closely with the custodial supervisor, and I'm happy to share that because of trying to work to lower those costs, because you're correct, it's 48 an hour for overtime. But we were able to do a 1 hour overtime at the end of a shift. And hopefully there's enough to teams that are playing on our fields at that time to split those costs. So we were able to charge only 25 for 1 hour instead of many of their districts go all the way up to, like you said, $48 an hour for a 3 hour minimum, actually. So we're able to do it per team, 25 for the entire day. That's on weekdays. On the weekends, we actually do have to do a 3 hour minimum. That's required by the union. So we also work though to provide if they're going to be an extensive day, to have them come on and then return instead of possibly if it's 12-hour day, seeing where that custodian can be helpful to reduce some of those costs. So we're working closely with the user groups to try to lower those costs, because we do understand that if it's a long day, that those prices could get high.
And I also had another question too. Is the reason that maybe our pool fees are so much higher is that we're charging per lane? Because I know like if a water polo team wants to use the pool, they don't need any lanes. It usually just gets separated off. So are we charging by lane, or are we charging for the entire pool? Is that why maybe we're so much higher? And then I also wanted to ask too, our boosters are paying a lot of money to maintain the fields as well. And so I kind of have been asking, and I haven't really seen how much is going into each program that we've come back. I think I've asked several times to see what goes out into what programs. I know baseball spent $10,000 to do their varsity fields, probably more now for varsity and JV at one of the high schools. I know the soccer field at another high school, they've been spending $10,000, $15,000, and that's coming from the boosters. And so I think some of the frustration of the parents is, that we're paying, you're living in the city, you're paying, and here you are paying more money to the boosters as all the fees keep rising. And then now the facility fees are rising, and you're just like bleeding money. The programs are bleeding money. So I think it would be good if our community, or at least us as a board too, can see how much the district is actually putting into these fields, and actually putting into the pool, and putting into the facilities. So I think that would be a really good thing for all of us to be able to see, so we know exactly where the money's going.
Sure. We definitely provide that information for you. Yeah. In terms of the pools charging, by pool, I think if you look around surrounding districts, it's typically you rent out the entire pool. And I think there's reasons for that. If you have a water polo team practice in there, for example, it'd be very difficult to divide that up safely. And so it's typically rented out by the entire pool. And so, but those are things that we could investigate further. There might be a swim team, for example, that comes in that you can safely divide up the pool. So there are things that we could look at if the board was interested.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like just to ask a question about, so we're talking about renting the space for community groups. Is there, and I'm only really interested in the fields, as you look at low-income neighborhoods that may not have parks that are close to them. What have we looked at to open up those fields? What is the schedule like? Is there availability for the community to come in and use those fields, regardless of if they have a, maybe not an organized activity, but designated times for them to use that? Do we?
Several years. The cost is pretty minimal, and we also have tried to, in what was brought up about custodial costs, in those areas that we can do a porta potty, it's much less cost than having to have a custodian there to do so. So if we are able to provide those, we do that. Some of the other areas, such as Rio Vista, that is a joint use. So is down past drawing blank. What's our lower one? Topaz. Yes. So many of those are joint use agreements. Yeah. Outside of that, we do have many soccer organizations already utilizing those spaces.
So when they're not being used for soccer and not during school time, they're actually available and open for the community for joint use?
We're not open for like park use at this time.
So that could be something that we
Okay.
can look into further.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Lauren, do you have any questions? Okay, all right.
So we can gather, I don't want to cut you off.
No, no,
President Freeman.
no,
We can
thank you.
gather some of the state and the board has asked for and include that in the workshop
Sure.
presentation when we have the company come out to
Okay.
address the report.
Great, good. All right. All right, good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the two presenters that really brought forward something that's been of interest to all of us. So thank you. Okay, we're at consent calendar. Okay, all right.
Can we take a quick break?
Oh, yes, yes, that would be great. We will take, well, let's be back at 9 o'clock. Let's just be back at 9 o'clock, but let's be punctual. Thank you. We're going to take a recess since we have some more time to go on our agenda. So at 8:47, we are taking a recess. All of these items are items that we have had that we've had in advance. We come prepared to vote on them as a block. And on the other hand, if there are any items to be handled separately, we do that as well. So at this time, is there anyone who wishes to hold an item or any items between items 1 through 46 for separate consideration?
Madam President, I'd like to hold item 17.
Okay. Others?
Also, item number 22. And last but not least, 28.
28.
For review, please.
Sure.
And I'd like to hold 20 and 21.
20 and 21?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Additional? Yes.
I like to hold number 35.
Number 35. Any other items to be held? No? Okay. With that, I'll take a motion that would approve the remaining balance with those items. That's items 17, 20, 21, 22, 28, and 35.
I'll make a motion that we approve the remaining of those as a block.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion for Mrs. Buck and a second for Mrs. Anderson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has passed unanimously, including a vote from our student board member. All right, so let us return to our first item held, that is item 17. To proceed, I will need a motion, please, and a second.
I'll make a motion with certify that Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District has complied with Education Code 84905C regarding the appointment of Jamie Jock as their official designee to the consortium's executive committee.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, I have a motion from Mrs. Buck and a second from Mrs. Blades. This was held by Mr. Youngblood. Did you have a question or comment or?
President Freeman, I'd like to table this appointment until our next meeting in order to evaluate information that I recently received. This way, the board will have a more complete and accurate picture of this candidate and the designation from this governing board.
We already have a motion at this time. Yes, we have a motion before us. Okay. Okay, let me just a moment. Get to the page that I want to be looking at this moment, please. Okay. So I want to be sure that this is for the North Orange County Regional Consortium, the designated representative. That's correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And this is for adult education, correct? Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, I have a question. If we don't vote to approve this, is there any ramifications? I mean, are we uncompliant?
Well, we are required to have a representative at each of the meetings, which occur, every month. That's as often as the consortium meets. And so, until such time as, we have someone approved, we would not have any representation at
Is
those
it
meetings.
typically the principal of Buena Vista Virtual Academy that would be?
Correct. That has always been right. The person who we've submitted.
Did you hear what she said about typically it
Yes,
would be the principal from Buena Vista Virtual?
Correct. I got it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. Further questions?
Is this doable? I mean, are we able to?
Well, we have a motion here to either prove, we have to vote on the one that's here before us.
Correct. Okay.
Okay. All right. So, yes, further, yes, I'm sorry.
So all they're doing is representing our district at the consortium and gathering information and bringing back.
Correct.
It's not really voting organization, or they don't set policy or procedure. They're just gathering and bringing it back. Is that correct?
Well, it's a combination. They gather and bring information back, but they also are very involved in providing input. They serve as the voice, for our district, and provide input towards the overarching plan for the block grant. So there's a funding source that there's a plan that really seeks to put together services to serve our student population who receive services under the adult ed block grant.
Do we know what percentage of our students are in service by that?
I don't have the percentage in front of me. I can absolutely get it
so.
back
I
for
just
you.
came up with
Yes,
a
but
question,
it's
sorry.
right. I can absolutely provide it though.
It's mostly through our one program. Is that correct? The students that are served, it's mostly through our adult special ed. Is that correct? Or
well, it's actually not, and really the students that are served, it's across the county is really what it is, and the consortium, it consists of representatives of a multitude of colleges and then K-12 districts, and they essentially all come together to really put together this plan to ensure that students who are being served through adult ed services have the appropriate supports that they need. And typically it's students who are either considered English learners, students with disabilities, yes, absolutely, and then those who have just haven't finished their full education through the K-12 system.
okay, thank you.
So what would be the process with Mr. Youngblood asking to table it? Would we have to do the vote and then table it for the next meeting?
We
Or
have,
how do we?
we have a vote here. We have
I
a motion
understand.
and a second. So we take a vote on this.
Mm-hmm.
And if it fails, then I think it would just, we would fail. We would, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, further questions?
No.
All right.
Yes.
I presume this question was asked in advance, hopefully to get answers for questions that may have been in the minds of those who asked the questions.
Yeah, the information that I received was kind of one-sided, so I didn't want to bring up a reason to possibly discredit this person. So in other words, I would just like to gather a little more information about what was actually presented, and that that way we can make a good, complete decision on a person that's going to well represent our district.
What I guess I'm asking, did you ask someone on staff ahead of time for
Yes,
this?
yes,
item?
ma'am, I did.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's go ahead and have our vote on this item, please. All those in favor of approving the item before us, item 17. The I votes on this, just a moment, that will record as a 3-2. Those in support would be Mr. Youngblood. I'm sorry.
Opposite of that.
Opposite.
Flip that. Sorry, folks. That's a 2-3. Correction. And so those in support are Mrs. Buck and Mrs. Freeman. Those dissenting are Mr. Youngblood, Mrs. Anderson, and Mrs. Blades. Motion fails. Okay, item 20. I need a motion on this, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the subscription agreement with Edulastic for grades 6 through 12 with the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District.
A second.
Okay, I have a motion from Mrs. Blades, a second from Mrs. Buck. Okay, this was held by Mrs. Blades. Yes,
Yes,
you
it
have
was.
comment or question on that?
Yes, I was told that this was for assessment only, but then after further investigation, I also went into their Instagram page, and they said it's 5 alternative ways to use Edulastic besides testing. It says our tech enhanced features are perfect for homework, tutoring, in-class activities, diagnostic check-ins, and more. And so the concern is that the new ZLA or the new Zella is also used by Edulastic, which has some controversial material and stuff in there that are some of our parents are concerned about. So that's why I pulled the item, because I just think as I'm researching these programs, that there's a lot of stuff that's in there and we don't seem to have any oversight in the classroom or any checks and balances. And so my concern would be is that we say that we're using it for assessment purposes, but how do we know when there's all this other stuff that's in there and that can be accessed? And the stuff that was in there was, you know, things that I just don't, I think it needs to be transparent for our parents, what the kids are learning, and that, I don't know how the district would be able to say that this is for assessment purposes only, when I found on their Instagram page, it was like 6 down maybe, that they use it for all kinds of other things.
I'll turn that to staff.
Sure,
Dr.
absolutely. Thank
Adamson.
you. Yeah. Thank you for the question, Mrs. Bates. I think I can absolutely guarantee you the whole reason that we even, pursued Edulastics in the first place, and this was at the beginning of last year, during remote learning, was for the absolute sole purpose of assessment. The benefit of Edulastic itself is that it really, number one, it offers, a variety of item bank assessments that teachers can utilize, that they very closely follow and assimilate the actual CASP testing that we do, our state standardized testing that we take in the spring. So there's a benefit there because it really gives the students that ability to just become familiar with that format of testing, and really the same very similar questions and the level of critical thinking that the questions require for students. And then it also, in addition to the summative assessments that it offers, it's also more formative as well. So more interim assessments that teachers can take. So they can either choose to select the pre-built assessments that Edulastics offers, for all content areas, or they can actually create their own assessments and then upload them to the program itself, and that way administer it to the students, much as they take the CASP test at the in the spring of every year. That is the sole purpose that we are intending, that our teachers have been using it. I understand the concern that if there are additional lessons, but honestly, that our teachers have access to so many additional resources and curriculum pieces that there's no need for them to utilize those additional resources that Edulastic may offer on the site. If even if there's any additional guarantee that we can provide, and much as we did with Brain Pop and looking into the filters and things of that nature, that really only provide the access to the assessment piece, because that is what we need it for. That honestly is all we need it for.
Is there any other program that just does assessments that can we look into it?
Not that we have utilized. And, I think the challenge that we have is, of course, there are many programs out there, but, it takes training, it takes time to implement it. Edulastics is one that our teachers have had a full year under their belts of using, and so they're familiar with it. If we were to go out now and look at an alternative program that, could be, it's going to delay the access that teachers have, to the program a couple more weeks and months. And then, we run into the issue now of then having to train them, provide that training for them to utilize it. So, we're just wasting valuable time at this point.
So let me ask a question. Is there any checks and balances or any type of, if the district says you only are going to use Edulastic for assessment purposes only, is there any type of checks and balances? Is there any type of oversight? Is there any disciplinary action if we find that they're using it for other things and things from other sites are coming in and being used in the classroom?
I wouldn't say any disciplinary action that has been needed, because it has up until this point only been used for for assessment purposes. And I don't think we felt the need to have to put that message out there up until this point, Mrs. Bates. And I have not personally been informed. I don't believe any of our directors, within the Ed Services Department have of Edulastic specifically, any lessons being administered or provided to our students other than, for the sole purpose of assessment. Yeah. So.
Additional comments? As it says in our backup information, this really, what's good about it in terms of this particular assessment platform is that, as it says, it mirrors the skills and format of the state standardized tests. It, as I understand it, really emulates in a way that provides a familiarity for students as they become accustomed to seeing assessments done through Edulastic, that when it comes then when they're out there ready to go forward with the state standardized tests, it will not be foreign to them. It will seem familiar and navigable, if that's the
Absolutely.
word.
Yeah.
More importantly, we're using it for that, and our teachers, I have faith that we hire and retain highly qualified teachers who they have to have many tools, and the tool this provides is the assessment piece, and it's not for the purpose of what has been also found as another feature of Edulastic. But it's not what we're using it for. We're
Right.
using it solely for this.
That is absolutely correct. Yes.
Any other thing?
No.
Okay, let's go ahead, take our vote on this. We have our motion. All those in favor of approving the subscription agreement with Edulastics, grades 6 through 12, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried 5-0. And I didn't catch, were you a vote on that?
Was that a yes or no?
I'm
Yes,
sorry,
that's a yes
trying to
for
pick it
Lauren.
all up. I was looking down. Thank you very much, Ms. Fair. All right, moving on to the next one, item 21. This was held also by Mrs. Blades. I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion. We approve the amended agreement with Nearpod for subscription purchase of an online software system for the 21-22 school year for our TK-12 schools.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, Mrs. Blades, a comment or a question on this?
Yeah. So when I was researching Nearpod, when I looked up the stuff, the original nearpod.com looked like the site was maybe for fourth graders. And so as I continued in and I continued researching, I went to the Nearpod blog, which kind of showed a different side of it. So when I went to their blog, it was how to tie racial justice to ELA, social studies, science, and math. Also stated that elementary was not too young to learn about the above topics, anti-racism, and a majority of other things. It was how to establish classroom norms and common vocabulary. And there was also free lessons on all of this. And also, too, another concern was the Southern Poverty Law Center is involved and is contributing to this company. And so I just felt like their initial nearpod.com, it appeared to be a little bit deceptive as to what they actually are. And then I had to go search a bit. Actually, I didn't have to search very much. I just went to their blog. And then I also went to their Instagram page and their Facebook page. And this is the stuff that I found. And so that's why I've asked to hold it, just because I believe that we have a lot of these online programs and these kids are doing it in school and their parents are at home and they never have any idea what is going on in the classroom. And I think too, just talking to a lot of teachers, is that it seems like every single month we're approving 5 or 6 online programs, more stuff to push into class. Our kids have been out of school for 1.5 years and they've been sitting on Zoom. And so I think too, a lot of teachers have said that kids do learn better when you have more instruction and you're not learning from your, your online apps and programs and stuff. And so I just felt like this wasn't something that are, there might be people in our community who want this, but why do you hide it? Why do you hide that you're trying to tie racial justice into all of these subjects? Why? And so I just felt like it was a little bit deceptive. And that's why I held it.
Dr. Adams, if I may, please have, thank you.
All right. Thank you again for your question, Mrs. Blades. And I think Nearpod is something that we started and we actually signed up for and we made available to our teachers at the beginning of the pandemic last year. And I can honestly say that it was a savior, I think, for remote learning for so many of our teachers.
The benefit with Nearpod, and I'll just, for the purpose of everyone here this evening, is that it's not so much even, the available lessons, and it's unfortunate that those are the lessons that come up when, you search it, and I understand, of course, that from your perspective is a concern for that, but the benefit of Nearpod is ultimately that teachers can take, any lesson that they've created and they, submit it up, to Nearpod, and what it does is it now makes it available. It turns it into an interactive lesson that students can then access from their own devices. So if they've got a laptop or a Chromebook or even an iPad, it could even be, for kindergarteners on the carpet, right? That they're, actually reading and being able to access the lesson the teachers assigned. But it makes it then immediately interactive and allows for the students to, follow along with the lesson at the teacher's pace. In many cases, even at their own pace, if they want to move ahead. But it allows in the teacher to then build in interactive pieces into the lesson. So if she, wants to go ahead, or he wants to do a question that's specific to a math problem, the students, there's a write, it's a draw app that function that is built into the lesson itself, and then the students can actually go in and they complete, the problem itself and submit it directly up to the teacher, and so automatically they're getting those, direct results in real time. And that then allows for, just immediate assessment and percentage results that the teacher can have, at the ready to be able to indicate how many of the students have learned the lesson then and there. And that's just a very basic, simple, one example of a lesson. But ultimately, I think the piece that's important for, for you to know tonight is that our teachers, because they've been using Nearpod throughout the, period of a year, they have actually now got several and a variety of lessons that they would not be able to access if we were to now, stop the subscription with Nearpod for the remainder of this year. So number one, it's not necessarily the lessons that are available, it's more the lessons that they have built and are now accessible, through Nearpod, through the work that they, did all of last year. So that's, definitely one piece. I think we, much as we had the discussion with BrainPop at, our last board meeting, what we have done is gone in and we've been working with Nearpod, and they have shown a commitment to us to be able to really remove any lessons and material and content that we don't feel is appropriate and applicable, for individual grade levels. And so, even as of today, this morning, they were continuing to work to, go through and sort through and filter through some of that material and content. They have committed to us that within the next few weeks, much as BrainPop has, that we will then have those filters available to us as an administrative team to really be able to do it ourselves and not even have to rely, on Nearpod themselves to do that. So
didn't we vote against BrainPop?
Yes, you
so
did.
How
absolutely.
are we still?
We're not using BrainPop anymore, but remember, we will be bringing it back in November once we have some of those safeguards. That was the agreement that we had at the last board meeting. Yeah. So, right.
Excuse me. This is our business meeting, please.
Dr. Adamson, it's my understanding, I've been told that there are filters in which we're going to be able to use on the Nearpod as well. Is that
absolutely correct?
Okay,
yes.
so if some of this material ends up in the homes of these children, will the people that are the administrators that are allowing this in, will they be held responsible?
If it was material that was at home that wasn't appropriate, they should call the school site principal and handle it through the principal.
Okay, thank you.
And I do just want to be very clear with Nearpod that students can't access all of those lessons that you're seeing through Nearpod. They can only access what the teacher is making available to them. So they create the lesson, they submit it to the students, and then they participate in that lesson themselves. That is how it works.
So they're not able to surf on the site. Is that correct?
Now they could surf on an outside, account, and they can access what anyone in the public can access. Correct. Exactly. Okay. Yes, that is correct.
And then I have another question that we already approved this.
Yes.
For 103, and this is
Correct.
just for additional to make it through the remainder of the school year because we used it during summer school.
That is absolutely correct. It allows for us to cover that last month of the school year. That's the additional 13,000. And it also provides, I think, 6 professional development pieces as well. So.
I think when it went through the last, I don't know if we were in, when was this approved the last time? It was a couple months ago, correct?
Correct. I believe June. I'd have to go back
when I
and
looked it
verify.
up, that's what I saw. I saw it looked like a 4th grade curriculum. It didn't look like a 12th grader would use it.
Right.
And so my issue is this, and I mean, let's just be honest. We get, and I know that people are going to completely misconstrue this, that I'm anti-teacher, I'm anti-whatever, but we get, calls from our community every day that about the vaccinations, about this, about that, about teachers who are teaching this stuff, about teachers who are doing things in their classroom. And I just think that while we want to trust the teachers, it's just a hard thing to do for, I think, the parents in our community to just accept that nobody's going to be teaching us in the classroom. There's no checks and balances, and they can't see it from home. They can't see the lessons. And so I think when we say, there just seems to be no oversight. Now, if we were to say that we were going to turn on what we did with Brain Pop and just go completely, then that can be acceptable if it can show that nobody can access this type of stuff. Because I really feel like everybody tonight spoke, let's teach reading, writing, math, science, things like that. I don't think our parents in our community, at least people who have spoken to me, they don't want this type of stuff to be put in their curriculum. And I mean, the Southern Poverty Law Center is contributing to this as well. And I mean, and then it's right there, how to tie racial justice into every single topic. And so I just feel like there's a lot of teachers who have said to parents, I'm going to teach it anyways. I know I'm not supposed to do it. And so it's like there might just be a few people that are ruining it for others, but it might be those few people that, are making the district look bad and making it look like we aren't, can't control anything, and we can't control what our teachers are teaching. And so, I mean, that's just what people are telling me and they're calling me about. And I think it is a concern, and I think our parents are concerned. And so I'm going to vote no on this tonight. And then, but if we bring it back in a few months and we show that there are complete controls over this and that there can't be any access, then I'm fine with that. And I'm not saying that I don't trust our teachers. I'm not saying that I don't trust this and that, but I am listening to the parents and I am listening to their concerns. And I think that if we can show that this is no longer a concern for them, then I think everybody can be happy, because then I think it's important that our parents learn to trust us again.
We're going to go ahead and take, did you?
I was at Yorba Linda High School today, and I saw a Nearpod lesson. It was in the language arts class, and she was talking about punctuation. And what she did is created a PowerPoint that was just a slide and talked about what punctuation is and gave some examples. And what it did when she played it, she had done some recording that goes along with it. So it played her voice as she's talking to the kids, and she walked around and worked with each of them on looking at punctuation. And she led it saying that, as we're on our cell phones all the time, we're not using as much punctuation as we need to. And so it really brought it into that. And so then after that, they took a quiz that she had put into Nearpod, and they went in and they put the correct pronunciation into it, and then it reported out to her immediately what those results were. Instead of doing a paper test and taking that home, her having to grade it, it really gave her immediate results there, so that she could go back before the class even left and reteach the things that they were missing on that. So I remember a number of years ago, the flipped classroom was kind of a new idea, and it really was geared around math and teaching and recording a math lesson ahead of time, so that when the student got home, they could listen to that over and over and over if they needed to, and go back, and when they're in the classroom, be doing the actual work and working with the teacher, instead of doing the lesson at school, getting the lecture, and then going home and doing the work without that support. So it really, what I saw today showed the ability for that to happen. So it's that Kids can hear it over and over and over if they need to, and go back and not have to ask the teacher over and over, who may be busy doing other things. But then they gave the opportunity for the teacher to go back in and get that assessment immediately. And that was just a language arts example. It just had to do with punctuation. It was there was no even relevant topics in it. It just had to do with normal sentences and punctuation. So I asked the teacher how she benefited from that and what she would do if she lost that ability to do that, to use that that tool. And because of all of that she had put into it over the last year, she would be recreating a lot of those lessons that she had prepped for, and it would take her now time to go back and build those lessons for this year. That would have been able to be repeated from last year, and the kids could listen to it and do the work in the classroom with her, as opposed to just the repeated lecture that she would have to do in front of the class, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. I'm so glad you got to see it in person.
It was
yourself,
great.
Mrs.
I
Budd.
would highly recommend going in and asking. Yeah. Asking them to show it specifically to you.
I'm sorry. What?
Yeah, I would say go into class when you do your visits, ask specifically to go see those in action.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking.
No, I completely understand that. And a lot of these programs, such as Brain Pop, have been used time and time again. They've been very useful tools for teachers. However, we're kind of at a time in which these programs are being hijacked, and there are things that are being placed in it that parents and children should not even be involved in. So that's the concern. It's not necessarily the actual tool that we're talking about, because I think that's amazing. I've used Cahoots myself. I know that these things are very promising, especially for teachers that are overworked with 30 plus kids in their class. I totally get that. It's a lot of the material that's being placed in there, and sometimes unbeknownst to the district or the parents. So that's what we're trying to avoid.
If I could add, the benefit of this is they're recorded. So there are lessons that are there that you could always go back and look at. So they're built lessons. They're not like the teacher going up and just lecturing. That could change. This is actually something you could go back and look at.
And also, if you're getting calls about examples, those parents should be contacting the school, so that if they have examples of something as you've described it occurring, we do need to know that, because that, as has been explained, that is
Yeah, and that's what we've been telling them.
good. That's perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
They just want to make sure that we reiterate that these things are being taken care of. And if they're not feeling like administrators are taking care of it, then they're coming to their board members. So
And they should
this is
direct
why we're
it to
bringing
all of us,
Absolutely.
however they'd like to. That'd be great. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and take our.
I just have a clarifying question. If we do a no vote, it's not going away. It's still here.
No, because it has
That's
already
what I
been
thought.
approved.
And they said the time out for the filters to all be available is like a couple weeks.
Probably early November is
Early
what
November.
I'm thinking. Yeah, just to be safe.
So this isn't one of the things like that we can just pull out of after a month. We just stop. I know some of the other programs we could stop. So we can't stop this one. We're in it.
Correct. It's a year subscription that we paid for.
We've
Yeah.
already paid for a year.
Yes.
It's just basically the last month.
Yes, because we utilized it during the summer. Yes, so we need that filler gap, if you will, of the full year. Yes. Okay.
It's not going away.
All right, let's go ahead and take our vote on this, please. Again, I remind you, I want to be sure, we are on item 21 to approve the amended agreement with Nearpod for a subscription purchase. And with that, let's take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, it is a 4-1 vote, and also with our student board member in the affirmative. Okay, thank you. All right.
We should have asked you if you used it.
Yes, I have. But I do get that sometimes, like, I've had an experience with a teacher that, I've had an experience with just a teacher of like learning, especially very political, which, as a teenager, I don't always understand everything going on, but it just kind of felt very forced upon.
and all like the essays that I had to do and the lessons that she did, it kind of was like, is this being taught at every school or is it just your classroom? Because I took an AP course and that's what the class it was in, and it was just very one-sided, and it just kind of felt like the lessons and what was in the lessons was just very political, one-sided, and I would kind of complain about it with other classmates and they would agree. I remember talking about it with the principal, being like, hey, like, I don't really think that's okay, and like I don't feel comfortable writing an essay that I may be graded upon that maybe will be one-sided, that's opinionated. And then, but if it is on like Nearpods or stuff like that, sometimes it's kind of hard to show that, and you just have to explain it, and nothing was really done after I had talked about it. So that was just kind of my side of it. It's just like, yes, Nearpods are great. I think I found benefits from it as well. I'm a very visual person as well. But I feel like sites like that with technology, like it isn't always being monitored, and maybe not always being checked in with the teachers and what they're teaching, and going along with teachers being like, well, I'm just going to teach what I want to teach. And it's like, well, how do we know if we're checking if like, you know, if another teacher from Esperanza is teaching the same thing that my teacher at Yorba Linda is teaching? So that was just my experience with the teacher that I had.
Thank you. Thank you. I would appreciate the audience to be respectful. We're trying to continue with our meeting. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to item 22. This was held by Mr. Youngblood. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with Kinder Future to provide training to all wellness team members and school administrators in the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District for the 2021 to 2022 school year.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Mrs. Blades, a second from Mrs. Buck. The question or comment that you might have.
It was a concern. This is I completely understand this is part of the Assembly Bill 493 that is required by law for districts to do education for as far as the LGBTQ community and anti-bullying and so forth. Now, my concern is this, and I realize we have to teach it. However, why do we have to pick one particular program when we have so many talented administrators and teachers that could teach this program themselves and save the district $5,000?
Okay, Dr. Adamson, I don't know if you have.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Youngblood. I think the
recording stop. Recording in progress.
Kind of a new idea, and it really was geared around math and teaching and recording a math lesson.
administrators and our members of our wellness team go out and complete a training to become certified, and then come back and deliver that training themselves, and sort of a trainer of trainer models. And then of course the other option is seeking and looking at available companies out there who could come in to provide the training themselves. And really the reason we went with this particular company,
What I saw today.
And really the reason we went with this particular company, Kind of Future, in particular, one of the
intensive training and experience in training. She has over 15 years in providing this exact level of content to school districts across the country. So that was the first reason. I think the way that I liken it to is just I myself can become a personal trainer, for example, and I can go ahead and and complete a training that now allows me to do and give that and work with individuals, but that doesn't necessarily make me now an expert of training other personal trainers. And that's the way that I liken it to for our staff. I think that they can go out and get the training, but for them to then, after a 2 to 3 day training, to turn around and now have to come and be asked to, train all of our administrators, our principals, our psychologists, our counselors, that's a big ask. I think it's two very different skill sets. And they I think after possibly having been involved in that over a year or 2 years, that they would definitely be more skilled. But, I think I would much rather have someone coming in from outside who has this experience and is very well versed in the content and the vocabulary that's going to be required and ready to answer so many of the questions that are going to come up, during those trainings amongst our staff that we can turn to. In addition to that, it's not necessarily just about the training itself, but, whoever we bring in, and Lindsay Etheridge comes in with, just so many resources that she would also serve as a resource for our wellness team to be able to lean on, throughout the year as we, navigate some of the, challenging situations and conversations that, our staff is going to have as students come forward, to ensure we're able to support the students with their specific needs.
I was told that she was only going to participate in the training. She wasn't going to participate in the rest of the year because we've just hired all of these wellness coordinators.
Correct. Right.
And so another question is, could Trina Gonzalez teach this and make us compliant with our staff?
I don't want to answer for her, but I absolutely do believe that, yes, she absolutely could after having attended the training. I think, part of what we look at that, and I think any of our staff, I absolutely have every faith in Dr. Gonzalez to be able to do that. But, just to keep in mind that what that means is, we have to have, Dr. Gonzalez, along with additional staff members, go out, attend the training. So that would be an additional time commitment. We'd have to, we'd have a delay there to have to now, go out and get an approval, for that training that they're going to sign up for. Once they come back, they'd have to then go ahead and develop the resources and, the program to be able to put forward and be prepared for the training, which would really put us out to, December or maybe even January before, we're able to give any kind of training, for any of our staff.
Correct. And I understand there is no actual time period that this training must be done. Is that correct?
There's no time, there's no mandate on when it needs to be. However, we are in situations where we are needing to support our students, and we have, new staff members who we have hired who are coming on board, principals and psychologists who really need that training in order to best be, best equipped to be able to support the students, with their particular needs. And so that's, there's an urgency there with the training to just be sure that we, have everyone equipped with the knowledge that they need to do so. And
so I also did a little bit of research in other districts. They're not necessarily going out for the training. They're using their staff, like the directors and stuff. And what they've said is that they're doing is, if they have any questions regarding the state law, regarding anything, they're reaching out to the OC LGBTQ for any questions or resources, things like that. Is that an option for us to save $5,000? And to have our own staff, put this training together?
It absolutely is. And they remain a resource for us no matter what. I think we wouldn't save the money because we'd still have to send all of our staff to the training. It would be probably about the same, if not, more, because now we're training individuals, for that, and it's training that requires a certification. So it would probably be well in advance of the $5,000. But of course, it's an option. It's an option available to us. Yeah.
And how many companies did we look at?
It was, goodness, I would say on average, and I'm going to just look over to Dr. Gonzalez. I know that I don't know if there's an exact number, but I would say at least over 5 or 6 that we researched, right, extensively. Right. Do you want to come forward, Dr. Gonzalez?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
As I was sharing, a part of AB 493, we did have to require training. We looked into different resources. All of the local Department of Education had to provide resources available to school sites by July 2021. We looked at those websites, and most of them had just webinars, very simple lessons that teachers could listen to or staff members could listen to for training, but it just didn't seem adequate for us. So we looked at different organizations and companies, and Kinder Future came out to be the strongest competitors in their experience. Their specialty with working with larger school districts, they've worked with Santa Ana Unified in the past to be able to support those campaigns. They offered a plethora of resources, not not just for us to train our administrators and our staff, but also as consultants to us as we customize our own journey through this process. So as you know, there's a lot of compliance pieces involved in this. However, we as a district like to customize those things and really have input on what we're sharing, what parts of the training we're going to be offering to our staff. And so that was what she really offered with her company, was being able to listen to us, seek input from administrators like myself, and really make sure that she meets our needs from our own perspectives and our own journey. And so that's really what her most impressive part was, that she customizes things to meet the needs of our district by listening to us and really navigating through some of those waters to make us compliant in that area.
Can you give us an example of like what she would be doing to meet our needs that our staff couldn't do?
Yes, I think that one of it is her area of expertise is that she's worked with LGBTQ plus communities for over 15 years. She has that direct contact. She's worked with unified school districts, so she isn't unfamiliar with the processes and the laws that pertain to that. I definitely can do the training. I know you had asked. For me in particular, I could do it. I know the laws, but I don't also have that experiences in navigating larger school districts. In fact, educating the community on these particular needs and working on a larger scale. So I definitely think that I could do it. I don't think it would be as great as she would be able to, especially for the cost efficiency that she offers. The other things that she offers is really working on our campaigns. So she would help us facilitate Notice Needed and Nurtured campaign to make sure that we meet those needs, that we get involved with social media and really support our particular campaign in that area. So she isn't just an LGBTQ plus advocate. She actually works with many other different assets, or parts of our school district.
So if you could do the training and you know the laws and you know all the topics, then and you would be training our administrators and our wellness teams. So there really wouldn't be any need to get any training from her, because you know the basics, you know the laws, you know X, Y, and Z.
I think you would kind of liken me to, I wouldn't say I was an expert in that particular area. And that's why we always try to look for outside consultants who have that better expertise and practice at it. I could go over terms just like anybody else could, you know, if I Googled it online and looked up some of the key terms. But I think that she would do a much better job in preparing us for that.
But there is also a certification component, right? And so in order to be able to give the training, there's a certification that's required. And so you would have to first go out to get that, right, prior to being able to provide the training, right? Yeah.
Plus that also takes your time away from your other duties.
Correct. It's right.
Yeah.
The resources and during that time.
So we're asking you to put something else on to your list of things that you have other things that you also tend to.
I would say that I'm in charge of student wellness, access, and academic success. So I do look at data. I look at making sure that we maneuver all of our CASP scores, things like LCAP, SPSA. Under my belt, I work on Title IX compliances as well. So yes, it is a little more difficult than it might appear to be very easy and simple, but that's why we look into solutions for other companies to see that they can provide that training for us.
I think the one piece I just want to, reiterate is Dr. Gonzalez used the word customize, several times. And I think that's the piece too, that, after conversations with Lindsay Etheridge, that we really felt that confidence in her ability to be able to really look and see what our needs were. And, even the snapshot that we gave you in the write-up of what the course outline would involve, that really is just sort of a template and a sampling of, we would be highly involved, and even as an executive cabinet, very involved in just determining exactly, and designing what that training would be. And that's something where, Dr. Gonzalez and our wellness team would, they would truly customize it to fit the needs of exactly what we want to, share with our staff and what we want to train them in specifically.
I understand. Thank you. One question though, would we as the board be able to see the curriculum that you would provide our educators and such?
We could absolutely, yes, we could. I know we've just shared the outline with you, but I think once that has been determined as far as the program and the content that we're going to provide, we'd be happy to share that with you.
Because one of my concerns, I've went on the Kinder Future website as well. And,
absolutely.
You guys had mentioned resources. She has some very interesting resources, things with clinics in which provide hormone therapy and puberty blockers and so forth, and things that I think our parents might have a little bit of an issue with, including some of the BLM material that is also on there. So we might want to reassess this. We may want to see other agencies or programs that are going to be able to do this same thing if we don't have our own staff do the training.
Let's go.
That was a concern of mine also, and I saw that as well, is that she is tied to some social justice groups, which just makes things uncomfortable. And at first I was told, when I asked about the background of this, I was told it was just going to be used for training. And now I'm hearing that she's going to be helping with our social media and other stuff, and she's going to be around for the whole year.
The contract we have for her is purely for the training, but I think I made reference to the fact that she would then serve as a resource, during the time that we're utilizing her for the training, in the event that our wellness team, would require additional resources, that she would be there and available. But that's purely only as it relates to the training that, we are providing.
Okay. Let's go ahead. And
sorry.
Yeah, because I really would like to get to.
I know. I just have a couple questions and some comments.
Sure.
I went on the website as well. I really feel like it's important to have supports for our students, all students. And so I went to the website and I was looking at the reviews, and my concern was that she hasn't done a lot of district training, that all of her reviews are really related to kids and personal conversations. There is a review from Santa Ana School District, and most of her, it seems like most of her training has been on like gay straight alliance clubs, helping kids form those and things like that. And so my question, really is, what is her experience with district training? Is it only that she's only worked with Santa Ana Unified, or does she service other districts in our county? I just thought it was so small that I even called the LGBTQ chapter here in Orange County yesterday and asked them what they recommended. And I haven't gotten a response yet from them, but I was like, I'm concerned that not what she's going to teach. I'm just concerned that, her breath. And so, that's a concern of mine. And then a question would be, we've hired a lot of counselors, a lot of wellness specialists. We have counselors on assignment, COSAs, is that correct?
Correct, that's correct.
Do any of those people that we've hired have experience working with the LGBTQ community?
I think some of them have a variety of experience. And so again, I'll turn to Dr.
Yes,
Gonzalez.
I would say they do have experiences, again, not of training others or focusing on that particular part. It would be like when we suggest that I give a training versus Lindsay Etheridge, I would really encourage you to look at her background, because she would definitely have much more experience than I would, even if if she had limitations on some of those areas. So most definitely, I think she would be better equipped to do that. But we do have a COSA, a counselor on special assignment, has worked with LGBTQ plus students, and all of them have had a spattering of it. But we have a resident expert who guides us through the processes and what is in place with the law and helps support our school sites and myself as well.
Okay, is that something in the future that we could look into, getting her the actual training so that we could have an in-house specialist to work with these students?
She would be a part of the training if we did get this board
Yeah, but
approved. All of us
the
would-
train the trainer type of a model
We could
is what we
absolutely
talked
look
about.
and I think if we're talking building capacity, and that would absolutely be a plan down the line. That's right. So we do have several in-house trainers, that because ultimately it would be in our best interest. So we could absolutely ensure that. Yes.
Okay.
I would just feel more comfortable if we had a broader, somebody who maybe, like as Marilyn said, was more trained in training school districts and maybe not so one-on-one.
Let's go ahead then, if we could, and move to having a vote on this item.
Just one more comment. If we approve this training, it's just for this one training only, and then we could move forward with the others. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. I
Okay.
think there are two trainings. We've got one for our principals and then one for our counselors and psychs. I think it's two, right? But it's all within, a week's period that they will happen.
Okay.
Yes.
And then in the future, I would really love to have a study session on
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
All of these kids. And do we know if that type of language is going to be used again, or what's the plan?
Good question.
I can absolutely follow up on that, Mr. Youngblood, to ensure that is not the case. I know that, you know, the reason we are wanting him to come out to speak specifically to our students at El Camino is just as a pure direct result of his very similar background, you know, to what so many of our students, and, you know, as you know, El Camino serves some of our most at-risk, you know, student population within the district. And so it is that ability, I think, the story that he's able to share from his own childhood that, you know, I think those students are able to truly relate to. If that is a concern that you have, I, you know, will personally follow up to ensure that is absolutely, you know, is that it would not make it into any of the conversations. There's, you know, I don't see that having any value or any merit on, you know, the nature of the message that he will be delivering to our students. But, you know, because really, truly, the core content of that is really for him to, it's an uplifting message. It's one of inspiration for him to share his story of how, despite some of the greatest challenges, you know, that he went, you know, experienced, he was able to go on to, you know, graduate from school and receive multiple degrees, including his doctorate. And I think that message for our students at El Camino is so powerful and so important. And so I can absolutely assure you that would.
No, I completely agree. He has an amazing story. Very motivating. I just wanted to make sure that there was not any type of occupation that was going to be ostracized based upon his past or perceived future. So thank you.
Okay. And I'm just becoming more and more concerned as I was looking at him and looking up. He has on his page, he has the Black Lives Matter fist coming up and that he supports that. And as Mr. Youngblood was saying too, there's some anti-cop rhetoric in this. And so I'm just wondering why, if we know this stuff, why are we going to approve? Like, why are these questions not asked before it gets put on our desk for approval? Like, why aren't we asking them? Like, you know, look at what okay, so your social media has anti-cop rhetoric. Your story has some things that you've said in the past at other assemblies. You have a Black Lives Matter fist. It's going to cause a lot of people in our community concerned. How come we're not asking these questions before it comes to approval? I mean, I'd like to have like the full picture here.
Sure, right.
Okay. I went on the website and Googled him, and I read a lot of his papers, and his story is amazing. And I think he's, you know, when I was reading one of his papers, he says, you know, he brings the been there, done that kind of attitude, you know, been to jail, I've done these things. And I think that could be very motivating to students. But I am very concerned that he is extremely political. He is an avid writer, and his things that he writes have like the word, like it's revolution. He uses revolution, and he uses, anti-police rhetoric a lot. And, as long as we can be affirmed and it can be monitored that he is staying out of politics, he's staying on his personal story of how he can rise, and it is monitored, then would really be benefit from hearing his story. But I feel like we're walking a very fine line.
Yeah.
His images are disturbing if you Google him, with his, a lot of, anti-police rhetoric and his revolutionary talk. So that is my main concern, is that he's going to be on topic and stay that and not try to influence. I don't really think we need a revolution happening down the hill.
Right, absolutely. No, I would agree. Yeah.
I agree. And I think this was the item, although I didn't know it was going to be on the agenda, but when I was visiting El Camino the first week of school, the principal there, Carrie Aiello, is very looking forward, hopefully, to if this would go through, because, and if you know Carrie by now, her heart is without a doubt with the best for those students. And I agree that we would never want, whether it's that school or any school, to have something out there as part of the message that simply was not appropriate. And so I think everyone's heard that clearly this evening, but Carrie would, I'm sure, be the first one to say she wants the best for her students and not have something that would be inappropriate. I don't speak, well, I kind of did speak for her, but that is my impression. That is my impression of her dedication and commitment to making the lives of the students she has a responsibility for be that much more hopeful and positive as they go forward in their lives.
Do you think she could pick another person?
I can't speak to that, but I think she has indicated, and obviously this was, you see her name on the bottom of the item.
Right.
So I have no doubt she was very conscious in what she put forth and gave it the consideration. So I won't speak for her, but I know that our teachers, and certainly she as the administrator at that campus, would be careful to be sure that it was the right message without messages in there that don't belong at the school.
President Freeman, would she be, okay, let me back up. When would this assembly be if it were approved?
And can I ask why it's almost $60,000 for an assembly?
I don't know what.
So there's also a training component with it. If you read the write-up, so there's a parent training component. So he will also be meeting directly with the parents of those students and anyone who is interested. So there's sort of a professional development piece of that, and then ongoing seminars that he would work together with the parents and the students as well. So it's not just the assembly that's there, but it's ongoing throughout the year that he would serve as that resource. Yeah.
Okay.
Would you please let us conduct our meeting, please? Thank you.
Could we have the principal come and give a presentation about why she would like this particular gentleman?
I don't know if we.
We have a motion on the table. Go
Would that
ahead
be-
and we can bring it back if it fails, because I can frankly say
would that be appropriate?
I mean, would it be appropriate? That's
Actually,
what
I
I'm
can't
asking.
think of a time I've seen that done, but let's move then. If we're moving to that question, let's just go see where we are on the motion, and
Yes,
then
ma'am.
we'll go forward on it.
Okay.
Okay. I just clarifying, it's an assembly, and how many work, and then I know there's teacher education assembly, and then there's also parent education as
Correct.
well.
Exactly. Yes, that's correct. Right.
So
And how many?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's multiple nights, correct?
Correct.
Do we
yes,
know how
yeah.
many nights?
I knew that was going to be your next question, and I don't know the exact number of nights. I will get that information, that additional information. And, I don't think it would be, out of the ordinary for, if we were to even ask Mrs. Aiello to go ahead and put together a more comprehensive sort of report that we could make available to all of you on exactly, the nature of what those follow-up components would be as well. I think we could absolutely do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So postponing it wouldn't do any immediate damage, right?
Have no way to know if his schedule would be able to move to
right,
another time. Yeah.
Right. It depends on when the initial assembly, is scheduled, and how, if he can fit that into his, his schedule for the year. So that, yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and take our vote on this. We have our motion before us. Again, this is item 28 to approve the agreement with Scholar System Network and El Camino Real High School during the 21-22 school year for professional development, a school assembly, and targeted small group intervention. We have our motion, and with that, let's take our vote. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, motion fails. The motion in favor was Mrs. Buck, Mrs. Freeman, and those dissenting were Mrs. Anderson. The second, Mrs.
Actually,
Anderson.
I didn't vote. I'm still thinking.
Oh, I thought I heard you.
I didn't vote
Oh, I'm so sorry.
because I'm super conflicted by this.
Excuse me. All right, please, if you can't.
And so, but my main concern is making sure that it doesn't go political and that these kids and the parents and the staff gets the education that they need. And so that is where I'm really conflicted. And I guess if we could have, if I felt like district staff was going to supervise or monitor this really closely. I know the principal, I've met the principal there. I've been on her campus and I know how special these students are to her. And I don't feel like she would do anything to jeopardize them. She's very passionate. And you only have to be on that campus for about 15 minutes to see that. And then to be on the campus and walk around and meet these students and hear their stories, it's heart-wrenching. And I don't think any of us in this room knows what those kids go through. Because you had been there, done that. So I guess would that be something, Dr. Adamson, that we could do from the assistant superintendents to supervise to make sure it doesn't go
absolutely.
political?
We absolutely
it stays
can.
on point.
Yes, we can. Yes.
I am going to ask now everyone who's here that is not staff, please remove yourself from the boardroom. I hate to do that, but nobody seems to be able to behave themselves. I'm really, really, really sorry to do that. Please remove yourself, and that includes everyone, including those in the front row. Only staff. Thank you very much. please remove yourself. Remove yourself from the room. Thank you very much. Good night. Drive safely. We appreciate that. Please, we will take a 5-minute break. Remember, we could have to postpone the rest of our meeting. We'll actually be able to go till at least 10:30. We're taking a 5-minute stand-up break. 10:10, we're taking a stand-up break. 10:17. Okay.